Chapter 1309. In the illusion, Niet Tian and the others looked at the giant tree in front of them, but they were at their wits' end. Although everyone knew that the giant tree was the eye of the illusion, they couldn't break the space-time enchantment, so they couldn't destroy the eye. At this moment, Niet Tian looked at Chen Xinwen and said with a plain tone, "Lord Pill Emperor, since you want to merge with the space-time Armageddon, I'm sure you've prepared something. At this point, there's no need to hide it anymore, right?" Chen Xinwen was going to fuse with the space-time doomsday. Moreover, he was a space-time formation master, so he must have prepared something. If Niet Tian and the others were to forcefully break the space-time enchantment, it would be difficult. Space-time enchantment was different from ordinary enchantments. It contained the power of space-time. If one wanted to destroy it, it would be very difficult unless one's power was several times stronger than the power of the space-time enchantment. Chen Xinwen looked at Niet Tian and smiled cold. He was obviously guarding against the latter. Then, he looked at Bailey Fengshan and said, "Lord Illusion Emperor, I have a way to break the space-time enchantment, but I need your guarantee. If I break the enchantment and force out the main body of the space-time doomsday, I must fuse with it. Moreover, if I become weak because of this, no one is allowed to attack me." Chen Xinwen spoke in a righteous tone. The rascals he was referring to were obviously Niet Tian, Ghost Scar, and the others. He had indeed prepared something that could break the space-time enchantment. However, after that, he would be weak for a short period of time. Therefore, he was worried that Niet Tian would attack him during that time. Although Duguanai was also there, Ghost Scar was enough to restrain him. At that time, Chen Xinwen would become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered by Niet Tian. Now, Chen Xinwen was forcing Bailey Fengshan to guarantee him, so it was reasonable. This, Bailey Fengshan was dazed for a moment, then revealed a difficult expression. He could already see that the conflict between Niet Tian and Chen Xinwen was deep and irreconcilable. If Niet Tian made a move, would he still have to fight with Niet Tian? There were no grudges between him and Niet Tian. Moreover, there were two layers of relationships between Zui Qianshen and Long Outyin. Of course, he was biased towards Niet Tian. Chen Xinwen's request indeed put him in a difficult position. Chen Xinwen, stop making things difficult for him. At this time, Niet Tian took a step forward and said in a cold voice, "Don't worry. I won't attack you even if you become weak." A dignified alchemy emperor actually gauges the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a despicable person. It's truly an eye-opener. After Niet Tian finished speaking, he looked at Chen Xinwen contemptuously. He did want to kill the other party, but he would not take advantage of the other party's precarious situation. With his current strength, he would not be afraid of Chen Xinwen, even if it was a head-on battle. "Niet Tian, I hope you're not a despicable person who goes back on his word." Chen Xinwen smiled cold and said in a deep voice, "Although I, Niet Tian, am not a gentleman, I'm not a despicable person who goes back on his word." Niet Tianling responded coldly, "Lord Alchemy Emperor, now is not the time to argue. I believe in Lord Ao Jin's character. Lord Alchemy Emperor, please make your move." Bailey Fengshan stepped forward and said with a nod. Now that everyone was in an illusion, their minds were in danger of being swallowed by the first nightmare. If they continued arguing, the situation would only worsen. Yes, Chen Xinwen nodded slightly. What he wanted was Niet Tian's guarantee. Chen Xinwen stepped forward and came to the front of the space-time enchantment. He closed his eyes and was obviously sensing something. After a while, he opened his eyes and two scrolls appeared in his hands. He immediately unfolded them. What a powerful space-time aura. Everyone's eyes trembled when they sensed the powerful aura in the scrolls. Two scrolls, one was a sealing scroll and the other was a space-time scroll. Both were rank 8 scrolls and were very frightening. Since Chen Xinwen came for the space-time doomsday, how could he not prepare well? Everyone's eyes were focused on Chen Xinwen, and their nerves were stretched taut. No one knew what would happen next. Chen Xinwen let out a long breath. He was obviously very nervous. He moved his mind, and the space-time scroll released a powerful space-time aura. The invisible space-time power condensed into a space-time vortex and surged wildly in the void. In the next moment, the space-time vortex became violent and attacked the space-time enchantment crazily. Bang! 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 A series of muffled sounds were heard, and a terrifying fluctuation came from the invisible space. It was as if the entire space had become extremely unstable and could be torn apart at any time. Everyone was nervous. If the space-time exploded, it would really be the end of the world. Even peak Heavenly Emperor powerhouses could not withstand the impact power of the space-time storm too. Chun Xinwen's brows furrowed, bean-sized beads of sweat seeping out of his forehead, his complexion slightly pale. Very clearly, controlling the space-time scroll consumed a large amount of his essence, energy, and mental power. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Following the continuous impact of the space-time vortex, cracks finally appeared on the space-time enchantment. The entire space became on the verge of collapse. Everyone's hearts leaped to their throats. They knew that the next moment was the most crucial moment. Break for me! Right at this time, Chun Xinwen gave a deep roar. The last powerful space-time power on the space-time scroll attacked over. Rumble. The void rumbled. The space-time enchantment immediately collapsed. Right at this instant, a cluster of dark white interweaving light ball suddenly appeared in the void. It opened its huge mouth like a monster, wanting to devour everything. Space-time doomsday. Everyone saw the dark white light ball and felt the extremely violent space-time power. Their eyes trembled violently, and they cried out in shock. Without a doubt, the dark white light ball that appeared in front of them was the main body of the space-time doomsday. That kind of extremely powerful space-time aura was suffocating. It was as if the entire space was pulled taut and was about to collapse. Space-time doomsday is mine. The instant Chun Xinwen saw the space-time doomsday, his expression revealed not shock, but greed. He came to Purgatory Mountain for the space-time doomsday. Now that the demonic fire appeared, how could he not be excited? Chun Xinwen did not hesitate and threw out the sealing scroll in his hand. An enormous and boundless sealing power spread out, like a huge net, enveloping towards the space-time doomsday. Space-time doomsday was the fifth demonic fire. The space-time aura contained in it was too strong. Chun Xinwen did not dare to immediately fuse with it. Therefore, he first sealed the demonic fire and then slowly fused with it. Can a rank 8 space-time seal scroll seal space-time doomsday? Nie Tian watched from the side, the holographic divine patterns locked onto space-time doomsday. He had some doubts in his heart. Boom! At this moment, a loud rumble came from the void. The sealing power enveloped space-time doomsday. Waves of sealing power were frantically released, wanting to completely seal space-time doomsday. Boom! However, the next moment, space-time doomsday suddenly became violent. The dark white light ball actually turned into a giant snake. Its body suddenly expanded, and a vast space-time power surged out. Boom! With a muffled sound, the sealing power directly exploded, and the sealing scroll also collapsed. Space-time doomsday directly broke free from the control. When everyone saw this scene, their eyes trembled and their expressions were shocked. Boom! Then, the space-time giant snake's body rolled, and a terrifying crack appeared in the void. Space-time was torn apart, and a violent power surged out from the crack, condensing into a huge hurricane. Chapter 13:10. The space-time doomsday broke free from the seal scroll's control and actually tore the void. A huge space-time storm appeared and attacked towards everyone like a wild snake. Oh no! In an instant, everyone's heart trembled violently. Their eyes were filled with terror. No one could have imagined that the space-time doomsday would be so violent. Not only did it break free from the seal, it even created a terrible space-time storm. The strangling power of the space-time storm was extremely terrifying. Even the martial body of a peak Heavenly Emperor could not withstand it. Rumble! At this moment, the space-time storm turned into a space-time wave and surged out, spreading towards everyone. Watch out! Nie Tian reacted the fastest. He immediately released the shrouding sky totem and formed a shrouding sky boundary, trying to stop the impact of the space-time storm. Kaboom! However, in just an instant, the shrouding sky boundary had just formed and was directly torn apart by the space-time storm. Even the power of the stars was swallowed by the space-time storm. Yet Tion's body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The power of the space-time storm was too terrifying. It was not something that the shrouding sky boundary could resist at all. Seeing this, everyone released all the power in their body to resist the invasion of the space-time storm. Tion's body surged with a huge power of the stars. He activated the heavenly star protection and protected Tiangong beside him. Bailey Fengshan frowned tightly. His whole body surged with black illusionary power. He directly activated the Dark Night Dust illusion boundary and enveloped everyone. Boom! At this moment, the space-time storm rushed over. There was an ear-piercing sound in the air. The terrible power was swallowing each other. Ah! The next moment, Bailey Fengshan screamed. His whole body trembled. The Dark Night Dust illusion boundary instantly collapsed. The power of the space-time storm was extremely terrifying. Even Bailey Fengshan could not resist it. It's over. Everyone's heart suddenly trembled. At this moment, they felt the real aura of death. Space-time storm was a power that they could not resist. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The space-time storm instantly pressed over. The strangling power from all directions enveloped everyone. They could not resist at all. Ah! Screams sounded immediately. Everyone's body was distorted by the pressure. Their faces became hideous. Tian released all the essence force in his body to support himself while protecting Tiangong at the same time. With Tiangong's strength, without Tian's protection, he would have been crushed into meat paste long ago. Tian might not be the strongest among them, but his martial body was the strongest. The God-fiend origin embryo, the exalted dragon vein, and the power of the stars. Tian's martial body was probably stronger than even the Snow Empress, who possessed the Snow Cloud's sacred body. But the space-time storm was too strong. The space-time strangulation power could instantly strangle peak Heavenly Emperor powerhouses. With Tian's strength, he could only hold on for a few seconds at most. What should I do? In an instant, Tian's mind roared. This was a moment of life and death. If he didn't do anything, he would definitely die within a few seconds. But at this moment, a strong space-time pressure came and directly descended on Tian's body. His body actually shrank a little due to the pressure. His entire body was completely distorted. His physical body and soul were almost torn apart in an instant. Tian felt that all the spatial rings on his body were actually shattering. The power in the spatial rings was all absorbed by the space-time storm. Roar! The only spatial item on Tian's body that did not shatter was the Spirit Dragon Ring. A furious dragon roar erupted from the Spirit Dragon Ring. The power of the Spirit Dragon Ring was very strong. It could actually resist the pressure of the space-time storm. But even if Tian released the green dragon at this moment, it would definitely be instantly swallowed by the space-time storm. The terrifying power of the storm surged wildly in the void. The tearing power was brutal. Oh! At the moment of life and death, Tian's mind trembled slightly. He actually felt that there was a space-time power surging out of his body. Space-time crystal chip. Tian suddenly thought of something. His mind shook, and the corners of his mouth revealed a joyful smile. Space-time crystal chip. It was the space-time power released by the space-time crystal chip on his body. The space-time crystal chip was obtained by Tian in the Ice and Fire world. When he left the Ice and Fire world, he had obtained a space-time crystal chip. He remembered very clearly that this space-time crystal chip was very strange. On the surface, it did not have a strong aura. But when his divine sense entered the crystal chip, he would find that there was an extremely vast space inside, as if it was a world of its own. At that time, Tian had suspected that it was very likely that he had obtained the legendary space-time crystal chip. Now, he was very sure that this crystal chip was the space-time crystal chip. The space-time crystal chip was formed after the space-time was highly compressed. There was a vast space-time inside it. It was an extremely dense space-time structure. No one knew where the space-time crystal chip came from. Such a magical thing could only be found by chance. Perhaps the space-time crystal chip can resist the space-time storm. In an instant, Nietion's heart suddenly trembled. Then, his divine sense moved and entered the space-time crystal chip. At this moment, the space-time crystal chip seemed to have sensed something. A huge force was released. In the void, there seemed to be an invisible giant hand that directly grabbed the space-time storm. Boom! At the same time, Nietion felt a roar in his head. The next moment, his figure appeared in a different space-time. This is... Nietion looked at the strange illusion around him. He frowned, and his whole body was petrified. Around him, there were countless space-time vortexes floating. In the sky above his head, there were countless space-time storms surging, extending into a sea of storms. The whole world was roaring in the space-time storms. Nietion sensed the space-time aura around him. It was a very mysterious aura. It was as if he had entered a completely different space-time. He could not even feel his own existence, as if he had integrated with this space-time. This is the internal space of the space-time crystal chip. After a while, Nietion finally reacted. He frowned slightly and looked confused. He did not know why he was here. Just when he was confused, there was another roar in his head. Then, his divine sense came out from the internal space of the space-time crystal chip. Nietion suddenly woke up. He was surprised to see that the space-time storms around him were instantly absorbed by the space-time crystal chip. The whole world became silent. Everyone looked at Nietion in shock. They had no idea what was going on. They were originally wrapped in the space-time storms and were about to be minced into pieces. However, Nietion released a space-time force and absorbed the space-time storms. This was too strange. Nietion was also stunned. He did not know what was going on. Where's the space-time doomsday? After a while, Nietion became cold. He found that the space-time doomsday had disappeared. It seems that you have absorbed it. Tiangong was the first to react. He said in shock. Nietion was taken aback, and his expression stiffened. I absorb it. Chapter 13:11. After a long time, Nietion finally calmed down and regained his composure. He didn't expect the space-time crystal to be so powerful. Not only did it absorb the space-time storm, it even absorbed the space-time apocalypse. As a thought entered Nietion's mind, he tried to locate the space-time chip, but to his surprise, it was nowhere to be found. He checked his entire body, Yuan Meridian, Origin Star Stone, Soul Space, Spear Dragon Ring, but he was shocked. The space-time crystal had strangely disappeared. How is this possible? Nietion was dumbfounded and couldn't react for a long time. He couldn't understand why the space-time crystal had strangely disappeared. The space-time crystal absorbed the space-time apocalypse, but it definitely didn't die together with it. Nietion was very sure about this. Nietion, did something happen? Bailey Finch's complexion slightly improved. Seeing Nietion's strange expression, he couldn't help but ask, "It's nothing." Nietion shook his head slightly and forced a smile. He said inwardly, "Forget it. Let's not worry about this for now. Let's break the illusion first." Chen Xinwen's expression was extremely ugly. He looked at Nietion with a gloomy expression, but he couldn't say anything. Nietion had indeed absorbed the space-time apocalypse, but if he didn't, everyone would have been killed by the space-time storm. No matter what, Nietion had saved everyone. Just based on this point, Chen Xinwen couldn't say anything. Nietion, I must obtain the space-time apocalypse. As long as I leave Purgatory Mountain, I will definitely snatch it back. Chen Xinwen said sinisterly. He didn't know that Nietion had the space-time crystal. He only thought that Nietion had absorbed the space-time apocalypse. As long as he killed Nietion, the space-time apocalypse would naturally appear again. Lord Illusion Emperor, it's time to break the illusion. Nietion sensed Chen Xinwen's evil intentions, but he didn't care. He looked at Bailey Fengshan and said, "Yes." Bailey Fengshan nodded and walked towards the huge tree. This time, without the protection of the space-time barrier, the illusory, I could no longer be protected. In fact, Nietian was a little confused at the moment. They had been trapped in the illusion for so long, but they did not feel their divine sense being devoured. It seemed like the first nightmare only wanted to imprison them. At that moment, Bailey Fengshen arrived in front of the Eye of Illusion. He took a deep breath and unleashed all the power in his body as he struck out with his palm. Boom! The palm strike was extremely powerful, and the vast power was like the roar of a mountain or the roar of a tsunami. The air trembled slightly, and with a violent explosion, the illusory giant tree was directly destroyed. In an instant, the illusion collapsed, and time and space changed. The environment in front of everyone became real, and they were now outside a canyon. The illusion has been broken, but what about the first nightmare? Everyone was stunned, and they were all surprised. Unexpectedly, although the illusion was broken, there was no sign of the first nightmare. Bailey Fengshen was surprised, and then he took out the demon fire diagram. According to the diagram, the first nightmare was not far from them, and it seemed to be right in front of them. Bailey Fengshen frowned, and then he raised his head and looked at the canyon not far away. He said in a deep voice, "The first nightmare is in the canyon." His expression was extremely puzzled. With his perception, he should be able to clearly sense the first nightmare since he was so close to it. However, he did not sense the first nightmare's aura at all. Bailey Fengshen turned around and looked at Zhuqianchen. The latter shook his head slightly. Obviously, he could not sense anything either. There is something wrong with this canyon. Let's go in and take a look. Nietian looked at the canyon in front of him and frowned slightly. His holographic divine glyph enveloped the canyon, but it was dark. He could not sense anything in the canyon. He was only a few hundred meters away from the canyon. At such a close distance, the perception of the holographic divine glyph should be the strongest. How could he not sense anything? One should know that the holographic divine glyph was known to be able to sense everything in the world. Everything in front of him was too strange. Even though he knew that it was dangerous, Nietian still wanted to go and check it out. The others frowned, obviously thinking about whether they should enter the canyon or not. After experiencing the space-time storm, everyone knew how dangerous the thing they were facing was, and they immediately felt timid. They were all top powerhouses, but in the face of death and the unknown, they were equally afraid. Boom! At that moment, a loud noise suddenly came from the canyon, and then a strange black light shot up to the sky. Everyone looked up at the black light in the sky, and their eyes trembled violently. That black light surged crazily in the sky. Waves after waves of strange, evil energy were released, and the world actually turned dark in an instant. "What is that?" Tiangong was stunned and exclaimed. He could clearly sense a terrifying demonic fire aura from the black light. However, it was obvious that the black light was not the first nightmare, but another demonic fire. Everyone was scared out of their wits and did not dare to get close. They could only look at the scene in the sky dumbfoundedly. "Everyone, have you heard of the Supreme Twin Fires?" At that moment, Bailey Fengshen seemed to have discovered something and asked in surprise, "Supreme Twin Fires?" Everyone was slightly stunned, not knowing what Bailey Fengshen was talking about. When Yetian heard those words, his eyes narrowed slightly, and he said with a trembling voice, "The Supreme Twin Fires that the Illusion Emperor mentioned, are they the two great demonic fires that were born at the beginning of the world? The first demonic fire, the universe boundary, and the second demonic fire, the heart of nothingness?" Nietian had studied demonic fires in his previous life, and he had read in an ancient book that the Supreme Twin Fires were the first and second demonic fires. According to the ancient book, the first demonic fire, the universe boundary, was a strange demonic fire that was born at the beginning of the world. It was a powerful fire that was nurtured from the scar of the universe at the time of the world's creation. It contained a terrifying creation energy and was said to be able to create a new world. However, the first demonic fire was only a legend, and no one had ever seen its true appearance. The second demonic fire, the heart of nothingness, was also born at the time of the world's creation, but it was born in the nothingness at the beginning of the world's creation. It was said that it had the power to devour the heavens and the earth, and only the universe boundary could resist the devouring power of the heart of nothingness. The heart of nothingness had once appeared during the ancient war of gods and demons, but it had disappeared and never appeared again. Although the universe boundary and the heart of nothingness were also demonic fires on the demonic fire list, the two great demonic fires were thousands of times stronger than the other demonic fires. One had the power of creation, and the other had the power to destroy. Compared to the other demonic fires, the universe boundary and the heart of nothingness were the supreme demonic fires, the kings of all demonic fires. Yes, when Bailey Fengshan saw that Nie Tian actually knew about the supreme twin fires, he could not help but be startled. Then he nodded his head, and his expression became even more solemn. He said, "If the supreme twin fires appear, will there be a pilgrimage of 10,000 flames?" Pilgrimage of 10,000 flames. When he heard these words, Nie Tian's eyes trembled violently, and he immediately understood. If there was anything in this world that could gather so many demonic fires, it could only be the supreme twin fires. In an instant, Nie Tian suddenly came to a realization. The first nightmare, space-time doomsday, and the dusk blade's heart flame. These three great demonic fires were summoned by the supreme twin fires. Chapter 13:12. The Sovereign Dual Fire. Nie Tian came to his senses and looked at the ball of black light in the sky. His pupils suddenly shrank, and his expression became slightly sluggish. He was extremely shocked. That ball of black light was one of the legendary Sovereign Dual Fire. Lord Illusion Emperor, are you saying that the ball of black light is the sovereign demonic fire? Tiangong also understood at this moment. He asked in shock, and even his voice couldn't help but tremble. The others were even more stunned. No one had expected the legendary sovereign demonic fire to appear in the Purgatory Mountain. Yes, Bailey Fengshan nodded heavily. He was equally shocked. He knew better than anyone else how terrifying the sovereign demonic fire was. At this moment, the ball of black light in the sky surged crazily. The world was filled with the terrifying aura of the demonic fire, as if the entire world was going to be devoured by the demonic fire. At this moment, Nie Tian suddenly sensed something. His expression changed, and he shouted in shock, "Not good." His holographic divine patterns sensed that there seemed to be a terrifying seal around the ball of black light. The ball of black light was about to break the seal. Chi chi chi. An ear-piercing sound could be heard in the sky. Waves of terrifying demonic fire power were wreaking havoc in the sky. The black flames slowly condensed into a hideous ghost face. It was faintly discernible and extremely frightening. The sovereign demonic fire is about to break the seal. We must stop it. Nie Tian had a vague, uneasy feeling in his heart, and he shouted loudly. Nie Tian, the devouring aura of this demonic fire is very strong. It must be the second demonic fire, the heart of nothingness. Bailey Fengshan's voice also sounded at this moment. He suddenly thought of something and said, "I've read in an ancient book that the heart of nothingness appeared during the ancient war of gods and demons, but it mysteriously disappeared afterward." Purgatory Mountain. Almost at the same time, Chen Xinwen's voice also sounded. He said with great panic, "The Snow Empress said that the Purgatory Mountain was the battlefield of the ancient war of gods and demons. The Purgatory Mountain was formed at that time." That's right. Bailey Fengshan's eyes flickered as he said, "This demonic flame is the heart of nothingness. It was sealed in Purgatory Mountain by the ancient gods and devils during the ancient era. I fear that the soul refinement flame of world's end purgatory was also released by the heart of nothingness." As expected, hearing this, Nie Tian understood everything, and his heart trembled violently. The heart of nothingness appeared in the ancient times. It was sealed in Purgatory Mountain by the ancient warriors. Now, it was actually going to break through the seal and reappear in the world. No one knows how terrifying the power of the heart of nothingness is. I must stop it from breaking the seal. Otherwise, the Heaven Realm's God Realm will face a calamity. Nyetian thought to himself. His entire body was covered in sweat. The Heart of Nothingness was one of the supreme twin flames. It was a powerful monster that could only be sealed by an ancient God Realm martial artist. Could Nyetian and the others stop it with their strength alone? GGG. Right at this moment, a sinister and strange laughter came from the sky. Each laugh was like the trembling of hell. It was extremely frightening, and it was filled with an extremely sinister aura. Foolish humans, you have sealed me for hundreds of thousands of years and imprisoned me in the depths of the abyss. Now, it is time for you to pay the price. The sinister voice was extremely ear-piercing, and it shook everyone's eardrums to the point of rupturing. The black ghost face became ferocious and violent. Black flames soared into the sky, attacking the ancient seal. Bailey Fengshan was right. The demonic flame in front of them was the second demonic flame, the Heart of Nothingness. The Heart of Nothingness was said to be able to devour everything in the world. If it was allowed to break the seal, it could instantly devour the entire Heaven Realm's God Realm. The Heart of Nothingness contained the power to destroy the world. That kind of terrifying power was unimaginable. Humans, a group of insignificant and despicable existences. You will pay the price for what you have done. The Heart of Nothingness roared ferociously. It gathered all the power in its body, and its devouring power became more and more terrifying. It had been imprisoned for hundreds of thousands of years. Now that the soul-confining seal had weakened, it was the best time for it to break the seal. Oh no! Nyetian's heart trembled slightly. The Heart of Nothingness hated humans very much. If it was allowed to break the seal, the entire Heaven Realm's God Realm would become its meal. At that moment, everyone was stunned. They stared blankly at the Heart of Nothingness. They were completely shocked by its all-devouring aura. Stupid humans, I have to thank you for your help in breaking the seal. The Heart of Nothingness laughed sinisterly. The black flames in the void continued to spread. What do you mean? Nyetian was slightly stunned. He was the only one among them who could still maintain his composure. At that moment, the Heart of Nothingness looked at Nyetian and let out a strange sound. It laughed strangely and said arrogantly, I didn't expect that the divine demon original embryo, the number 1 ancient taboo, would appear. It seems that the heavens are very kind to me. After I break the seal, I will devour the divine demon original embryo to restore at least half of my strength. Ha ha! At the end of its words, the Heart of Nothingness laughed crazily. Nyetian's eyes narrowed slightly, his eyes filled with astonishment. He didn't expect the Heart of Nothingness to be so terrifying. With just a glance, it could recognize the divine demon original embryo. Puny human, having the fiend god nascent embryo in your body is simply a waste. You should just hand it over to me. The Heart of Nothingness laughed arrogantly and said, Since you are the divine demon original embryo, I will tell you that the soul refining fire in the purgatory of Horizon is a clone of mine of nothingness. There are many warriors imprisoned in the purgatory of Horizon. I absorb their essence force and souls every day. That is why I can break the seal. Ha ha ha. The savage and cruel voice resounded in the void. It was like a merciless laugh at the stupidity of humans. So it was like this. Nyetian was very surprised. It turned out that the Heart of Nothingness had been absorbing the power of the people imprisoned in the purgatory of Horizon. That was why it could break the seal. The purgatory of Horizon was a perfect prison because of the existence of the soul refining fire. It could make warriors endure the most painful torture. Because of this, warriors were constantly being sent from the purgatory of Horizon. The Heart of Nothingness could continuously absorb the power of these warriors. Damn it! When Nyetian understood this, he couldn't help but roar. He immediately knew that the Heart of Nothingness had also devoured Han Fei and Zhang Jianqing's power. No. At this time, the Heart of Nothingness seemed to have discovered something. It was surprised and stared at Nyetian with its black hole-like eyes. It shook violently and shouted, You still have... The heart of nothingness seemed to have discovered something, but it didn't continue. Yet Tian frowned slightly. He didn't know what the heart of nothingness had discovered in his body. The heart of nothingness wasn't even afraid of the divine demon original embryo, but it didn't dare to continue. Didn't yet Tian have something more terrifying than the divine demon original embryo? GGG. At that moment, the heart of nothingness let out a cunning laugh. Fixing his pitch-black eyes on Yetian, he said, "Human boy, you're different from the others. I'll give you a chance to be my servant. What do you think?" As the heart of nothingness's voice fell, the others were shocked. Chapter 13:13. The heart of nothingness's hideous face suddenly calmed down, the pitch-black pair of eyes staring tightly at Nyetian. "Servant." Nyetian looked at the heart of nothingness and was slightly taken aback. But then he laughed coldly, laughing disdainfully and strangely. He was harmed by Luo Chinhun father and daughter in his previous life. How could he be someone else's servant again in this life? The same mistake he absolutely would not make a second time. At this very moment, Nyetian clearly read one word from the heart of nothingness: dread. Right? It was dread. Nyetian detected that the heart of nothingness actually had dread toward him. If there was not this trace of dread, how could the heart of nothingness possibly make Nyetian, or how could it possibly give up the god-fiend essence embryo? Could it be that there's something on me that makes the heart of nothingness feel fear? Nyetian said in his heart, the scene in front of him becoming strange. The heart of nothingness was not even afraid of the god-fiend essence embryo. Therefore, this thing that made it dread must be even more terrifying than the god-fiend essence embryo. Then what on earth could it be? One had to know. Even a peak deity realm powerhouse like Sakura heaven fell at the hands of a god-fiend. Non-extreme war god art, supreme dragon vein, holographic divine patterns, spirit dragon ring, soul devouring sword intent, dragon vein seal. Several guesses flashed across Nyetian's mind, but he immediately rejected them. Although these few things were terrifying, they absolutely would not be stronger than the god-fiend essence embryo. Finally, Nyetian placed his speculations on two things: the space-time crystal chip and the primordial star stone. If there was something in his body stronger than the god-fiend essence embryo, then it could only be the space-time crystal chip or the primordial star stone. Although he did not know where the space-time crystal chip was right now, he was very certain that it must be on him. The space-time crystal chip had just devoured the space-time doomsday. The terror of its power was already verified, and the power of the primordial star stone had always been what Nyetian could not understand. He was already almost reaching peak Heavenly Emperor, but did not even activate half of the stellar power inside the Star Origin Stone. The terror of the Star Origin Stone could be seen at a glance. Moreover, he was sure that it was definitely because of the raw star stone that the fiend god nascent embryo was affected. That was why he could reincarnate in just 100 years. Is it a space-time chip or a raw star stone? Nyetian guessed. He suddenly looked at the heart of nothingness and smiled cold. Heart of nothingness, you're afraid of my star energy, right? The power of the stars, the origin of power. Nyetian was more inclined to believe that the heart of nothingness was afraid of primal star stones. Human brat, are you looking down on me? In an instant, the heart of nothingness read the deep contempt in Nyetian's eyes, and it couldn't help but become furious. It roared in a deep voice. Tell me, where did you get that stone? As expected, seeing the heart of nothingness's reaction, Nyetian was overjoyed. He guessed right. What the heart of nothingness was afraid of was primal star stones. When the world was primal star stones. Even the heart of nothingness that claimed to have the power to destroy the world was afraid. Since that's the case, I don't need to be afraid of you. Nye Tianling smiled coldly and instantly calmed down. The corners of his mouth curled up in a cold smile. At this time, he felt that the heart of nothingness was about to break the seal, so he did not wait any longer. Both feet stomping, meteor wings appeared on his back, and he actually directly rushed towards the heart of nothingness. Nye Tian. Until this time, when Tian Gong and the rest saw Nye Tian's action, they could not help exclaiming, scared until their faces were drained of blood. Was Niet Tian crazy? Did he want to die? He rushed straight towards the heart of nothingness just like that. In midair, Niet Tian released enormous star energy all over his body. The heaven-shrouding totem appeared, and a large glittering net flickered. The entire stretch of sky was illuminated, becoming dazzling. The heaven-shrouding totem directly enveloped the heart of nothingness. Hee. In the next moment, the heart of nothingness let out a shrill cry, and the wild black flames actually retracted, not daring to directly touch the heaven-shrouding totem. The heart of nothingness is indeed afraid of the power of the stars. Seeing this scene, Niet Tian suddenly felt joy in his heart, and the corners of his mouth lifted into a smile. In fact, he had gambled with his life. If the heart of nothingness was not afraid of the power of the stars, then he would be in danger now. At such a close distance, he could instantly be swallowed by the heart of nothingness. Damn stone, you have been suppressing me since the beginning of the world. Millions of years have passed. Is it still not enough? The black flames around the heart of nothingness quickly retracted, not daring to touch the heaven-shrouding totem. Its mouth roared ferociously, seeming very angry. Hearing the heart of nothingness's words, Niet Tian slightly narrowed his eyes, extremely shocked. According to the legend, the heart of nothingness was born in the nothingness at the beginning of the world. It said that the primal star stone had always been suppressing it. Didn't that mean that the primal star stone was also something that existed at the beginning of the world? Thinking of this, Niet Tian could not help but frown, an extremely surprised expression on his face, and shouted loudly, "Heart of nothingness, what is this stone you speak of?" Hee. The heart of nothingness let out several strange laughs, and the aura around its body converged, gradually condensing into a black ball of light, like a black hole, extremely strange. The black ball of light trembled a few times and said, "Human boy, you actually don't know what this stone is. It's simply a disgrace in your hands. You talk too much nonsense." Niet Tian frowned, and the power of the stars crazily surged out of his body, directly enveloping the heart of nothingness. The black ball of light continued to tremble, as if it was trembling, and rapidly became smaller. On the ground, Tian Gong and the others were completely dumbfounded, their eyes filled with extreme disbelief, and their faces were blank, as if they were in a dream. What exactly was the power that Niet Tian had released? How could it make the heart of nothingness so afraid? They could feel that the power was not very strong, but it seemed to be the nemesis of the heart of nothingness, and the latter did not dare to come into direct contact with it. All of this was too strange. It seemed that the reincarnated Niet Tian was far more terrifying than they had imagined. "Human boy, stop right now." The black ball of light trembled continuously, and in an instant, it had shrunk to the size of a fist, and there was no longer any violent aura. The power of the stars is indeed strange. Why is the heart of nothingness so afraid? Niet Tian frowned as he watched the scene in front of him. He had originally thought that even if the heart of nothingness was afraid of the primal star stone, he would have to consume a large amount of the power of the stars to control it. However, the reality was that he had only used a little bit of the power of the stars, and the heart of nothingness was already trembling and begging for mercy. The primal star stone was the natural nemesis of the heart of nothingness. "Tell me, what is this stone that you speak of?" Niet Tianling sneered, and his figure moved, directly arriving beside the heart of nothingness. He stretched out his hand, and a wave of power of the stars was released, firmly grasping the heart of nothingness in his hand. This, everyone stared at the scene in the sky, and they were instantly petrified. Who would have thought that the heart of nothingness, which could devour heaven and earth, would be played in the palm of Niet Tian's hand? This scene was too strange. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it. Niet Tian held the heart of nothingness in his hand, feeling the terrifying, devouring power within it, and was extremely shocked. Chapter 13-14. Nyetian held the heart of nothingness in his palm. His expression was as gloomy as water as he waited for the heart of nothingness's reply. Human brat, don't force me. There are some things that you can't know. The heart of nothingness was trapped in the power of the stars, but it revealed an expression of extreme panic, its dark voice trembling slightly. Nyetian narrowed his eyes. He had always wanted to know what the primal starstone was. Now that he finally had the chance, how could he give it up? The corners of his lips curled up in a cold smile. Immediately after, his entire body released a wave of astral energy that transformed into a sharp blade that hung above the heart of nothingness's head. I'll give you one last chance. Tell me, what exactly is the primal starstone? At this moment, Nyetian wasn't joking. If the heart of nothingness didn't tell him what he wanted to know, he would definitely kill it. Human brat, there are some things that I can't say. If those old monsters found out, they would definitely destroy me. The heart of nothingness didn't seem to care about Nyetian's threat. Instead, it was worried about something else. It was extremely terrified. Nyetian frowned. It seemed that the heart of nothingness didn't intend to tell him the true nature of the primal starstone. Since you aren't willing to tell me, you could be imprisoned again. In the next moment, Nyetian's expression darkened. Immediately after, he sensed the forbidden soul seal in the air. This was an ancient seal that was used to imprison the heart of nothingness. The forbidden soul seal slowly condensed, slowly enveloping the heart of nothingness. Very soon, it was about to imprison the heart of nothingness again. This time, under the suppression of the astral energy, the heart of nothingness's strength had been weakened to the extreme. If it was imprisoned again, even if it was given a few 100,000 years, it would be extremely difficult for it to escape. Nyetian could see that the heart of nothingness had no intention of answering him. Hence, he could only imprison it again. The heart of nothingness was too terrifying. If it was released, it would be a great threat to the entire heaven world and even the upper realms. Human brat, you still want to imprison me? In an instant, the heart of nothingness understood what Nyetian wanted to do. It let out a strange cry and actually roared, Human brat, I don't want to be imprisoned again, even if I have to risk my life to be destroyed. Nyetian was slightly taken aback. There was a sense of unease in his heart. Boom! Right at this moment, the heart of nothingness suddenly expanded, directly breaking through the restraints of the star energy, and immediately pounced towards Nyetian. The heart of nothingness released the last of its power, intending to perish together with Nyetian. In an instant, Nyetian was engulfed in black flames, and a terrifying devouring power surged around him. Nyetian, Tiangong, and the others couldn't help exclaiming. However, they didn't dare to act blindly without thinking. The devouring power of the heart of nothingness was too strong. It wasn't something they could resist. Human brat, the power of the primordial stone in your body hasn't been completely released. I will take over your body. The heart of nothingness screeched, and the black flames turned into a devouring blade that penetrated into Nyetian's body. In an instant, Nyetian felt a terrible power raging in his body, making him feel as if all the meridians in his body were being torn apart and devoured. Suddenly, a sharp pain spread throughout his body, causing him to involuntarily scream. Jia jia jia. The heart of nothingness slowly penetrated Nyetian's body and immediately issued a strange cry. It sneered coldly, Human brat, I am indeed afraid of that stone, but you are too careless. Do you really think that I have no power to resist? The primordial stone was indeed the heart of nothingness's nemesis, but Nyetian had been too careless. He had only used a small amount of star energy to imprison the heart of nothingness, giving the latter an opportunity to counterattack. The heart of nothingness turned into black flames and instantly invaded Nyetian's body. It began to frantically devour his meridians, soul, and consciousness. Heart of nothingness, do you really think that you could devour me? However, just as the heart of nothingness completely entered Nyetian's body, the latter coldly smiled, the corners of his mouth curling up into an extremely cold smile. How is this possible? In the next moment, the heart of nothingness's panicked voice rang out, filled with extreme shock. It trembled as it said, "The primordial stone in your body has actually fused with the demon god's original embryo." The heart of nothingness instantly sensed that something was wrong and immediately screamed in pain. The black flames rapidly condensed, wanting to escape from Nietion's body. However, it was too late. The heavenly star protection appeared around Nietion's body, and the power of the stars sealed the heart of nothingness's escape route. With a cold smile, Nietion said, "How can I rest assured if I only imprison you with the heart of nothingness? It's better if I imprison you inside of me." The excruciating pain he felt throughout his body was greatly relieved, allowing him to speak normally again. "Cunning human brat, you dare to deceive me." The heart of nothingness realized what had happened and screamed in shock. It was obvious that Nietion had tricked the heart of nothingness into entering his body. It was just a small trap. Who told you to fall for it? Nietion chuckled. Then, the meridians in his body released a vast amount of star power, forcing the heart of nothingness to gather in his 10th yuan meridian. Earlier, Nietion had already tried to directly absorb the heart of nothingness. However, the heart of nothingness's power was too strong for him to absorb. Helpless, he pretended to be careless and allowed the heart of nothingness to enter his body. This time, Nietion was gambling with his life. He had long known that the power of the stars had already fused with his body. Even his meridians and blood were subtly changing. At this moment, if one were to carefully observe his blood, they would be able to see a dark gold color. This was the effect of the power of the stars. Since the heart of nothingness was so afraid of the primordial stone, how could Nietion let it go? The heart of nothingness contained a terrifying power. Nietion was prepared to imprison it in the star region. Under the pressure of the power of the stars in Nietion's body, the heart of nothingness was slowly forced into his 10th yuan meridian, slowly entering the star region. The star region was filled with the power of the stars. It was the safest place for the heart of nothingness to be imprisoned. "Shameless human boy, you underestimate me. I will destroy both jade and stone with you." The moment the heart of nihility completely entered the boundary of the galaxy, it let out a shrill cry. Immediately after, it condensed into a black sphere and directly exploded. Endless black flames spread in all directions like rolling dark clouds, wreaking havoc in the boundary of the galaxy. Nietion was stunned. He didn't expect that the heart of nothingness would rather die than be imprisoned. In the next moment, Nietion felt a terrifying power being released from his 10th yuan meridian. It caused huge ripples in his body, causing his divine sense to tremble violently. In the next moment, he lost consciousness. Boom! At the same time, the entire star region was plunged into darkness. Nietion's figure swayed slightly, and like a kite with a broken string, he fell straight down. "Nietion!" Tiangong shouted when he saw the scene in the sky. His figure moved, and he caught Nietion. Chapter 13:15. Chun Xinwen had been secretly observing the situation. When he saw that Nietion was not afraid of the heart of nihility, his heart was filled with fear. Nietion was too scary. If he didn't kill him now, he wouldn't have another chance in the future. When he saw that Nietion had fainted, he could no longer suppress the murderous intent in his eyes. His figure moved, and he struck out with his palm. A huge palm suddenly fell down, pressing down on Tiangong and Nietion like a mountain and the sea. Tiangong's strength was not strong. It was impossible for him to contend against Chun Xinwen. If this palm fell, he would definitely die, and Nietion would also die tragically. Don't even think about it. Almost at the same time, a low roar sounded. A figure soared into the sky. A pair of black wings appeared on his back. He flashed like a black lightning. This figure was none other than Ghost Scar. On the other side, Dugani's figure also followed, wanting to block Ghost Scar. Don't kill him. However, Before Duguni's figure could move, he felt a vast force attacking him. It actually froze the space around him, causing his figure to become sluggish. Illusion Emperor Dugunai suddenly turned around and looked at Bailey Feng Chun. He frowned, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. He didn't expect that Bailey Feng Chun would actually intervene and stop him from killing Yetian. Boom! Above the void, a violent explosion sounded. Ghost Scar blocked Chen Xinwen's fatal attack in time, saving Tian Gong and Yetian. Ghost Scar's figure moved and blocked Chen Xinwen. He signaled Tian Gong and Yetian to leave. Sword Emperor, what do you want? Chen Xinwen's figure froze in the air. He looked at Ghost Scar cold, and his face was full of murderous intent. Master Dan Emperor, Yetian is my friend. I won't let you hurt him. Ghost Scar said cold. His eyes, hidden under the black robe, flashed strangely. Yetian helped him obtain the Twilight Bladeheart Flame. How could he allow Chen Xinwen to kill Yetian? Ghost Scar, do you know whose enemy Yetian is? Chen Xinwen's face darkened, and his eyes flashed with cunning. I don't care whose enemy he is. All I know is that he is my friend, and I will protect him. Ghost Scar responded cold, not intending to step aside. Illusion Emperor, do you also want to protect Yetian? At this moment, Chen Xinwen suddenly turned to Bailey Fengshen and said darkly, you know the Snow Empress attitude when the 9 emperors discuss this. Yetian can't be left alive. If you insist on stopping him, you'll be going against the Snow Empress. Snow Empress. At the last moment, Chen Xinwen still brought him out. Bailey Fengshen frowned slightly, as if he was thinking about something. After a long time, he finally opened his mouth and said indifferently, Director Chun, you don't need to use the Snow Empress to pressure me. I know what I'm doing. I'm definitely going to protect Yetian. His voice was calm, but it was filled with an undefiable tyranny. Bailey Fengshen was one of the 9 emperors. There were some things that Ghost Scar didn't know, but he was very clear about. If he stood on Yetian's side now, it would be equivalent to breaking off relations with the Snow Empress, and the consequences would be very serious. Bailey Fengshen, you better think carefully about what you just said. Chen Xinwen frowned and said cold, if the Snow Empress was here, would you still dare to speak like this? Chen Xinwen directly called the Illusion Emperor by his name, and it was obvious that he was extremely angry. This was the best opportunity to kill Yetian. How could he miss it? Director Chun, I will explain to the Snow Empress myself. You don't need to worry about it. Bailey Fengshen replied cold, and his eyes revealed a hint of killing intent. His meaning was very clear. If Chen Xinwen and Duga Ni still wanted to kill Yetian, he would definitely not show any mercy. Pill Emperor. Dugu Ni's body shook, and he broke free from the restraining energy around him. He looked at Chen Xinwen, obviously asking for his opinion. Chen Xinwen's face was extremely gloomy. He didn't expect Bailey Fengshen to be so stubborn and would rather offend the Snow Empress than give in. He couldn't understand. Was Yetian that important to Bailey Fengshen? If Mo, Qianjun, Zhou Qiansheng, and the others offended the Snow Empress for Yetian, Chen Xinwen could understand. But why would Bailey Fengshen do this? He had never heard of any friendship between Yetian and Bailey Fengshen. Bailey Fengshen, it seems like you were determined to go against the Snow Empress. After a while, Chen Xinwen said cold, and his threat was self-evident. Bailey Fengshen's strength was second only to the Snow Empress among the 9 emperors. Chen Xinwen didn't dare to act recklessly. He knew that if he fought with Bailey Fengshen now, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. He might even lose his life here. Yes, this time, Bailey Fengshen didn't say anything else. He only said one word. His face was trembling nonstop, and he was suppressing his terrifying anger. He roared in his heart, Shui Ling Tian, do you think I don't know? Back then, Brother Long, Shao died in your hands. Shui Ling Tian was the name of the Snow Empress. This name was a taboo in the Heaven Domain. Even in the Heaven Domain, very few people knew the real name of the Snow Empress. Even Yetian didn't know the name of the Snow Empress. Bailey Fengshen had publicly broken off his relationship with the Snow Empress not because of Nie Tian, but because of another person, Long Xiao. Long Xiao was Long Outyan's father. Long Xiao's death was a huge incident in the Heaven Domain back then, because Long Xiao was someone who had the potential to reach the peak. However, no one knew who had killed Long Xiao. Bailey Fengshen knew that Long Xiao was killed by the Snow Empress. Long Xiao had the rare true dragon physique back then, which was why the Snow Empress killed him. The Snow Empress wanted to use Long Xiao's true dragon physique to break through to the godly state. Unfortunately, Long Xiao would rather self-destruct than let the Snow Empress obtain the true dragon physique. The Snow Empress thought that she had done everything secretly. However, she would never have thought that Bailey Fengshen had already investigated everything secretly. Long Xiao was Bailey Fengshen's best friend, and the latter had broken off his relationship with the Snow Empress because of him. Bailey Fengshen, you are digging your own grave. Chen Xinwen's eyes were extremely gloomy. He growled in a low voice, but he didn't dare to make a move. Get lost. Suddenly, Bailey Fengshen roared. His aura rose abruptly, and a terrifying illusory force was released. A pair of 1,000-meter-long, 7-colored wings formed on his back. The moment the 7-colored wings were released, the surrounding space was lit up, and the sky and earth became illusory. It was extremely unreal. 7-colored, illusory wings. Chen Xinwen screamed when he saw the 7-colored wings on Bailey Fengshen's back. His face turned as white as a sheet. The 7-colored illusory wings was Bailey Fengshen's forbidden illusory technique. Once trapped in it, one's divine sense would be destroyed. This is the last warning. Get lost. Bailey Fengshen took a step forward. The 7-colored halos in the air surged, and waves of illusory force were released continuously. Doug and I, let's go. Chen Xinwen swallowed hard. He didn't have the confidence to fight Bailey Fengshen. He glanced at Dugu and I, then left. Dugu and I frowned a little. Then he followed Bailey Fengshen. Bailey Fengshen, you will regret this. Chen Xinwen's voice echoed in the air as the two figures disappeared. Chapter 13:16. Teacher, are you all right? Zhui Qianshun stepped forward and asked anxiously when he saw Bailey Fengshen's pale face. I'm fine. Bailey Fengshen forced a smile and shook his head. The rainbow wings were forbidden illusionary techniques. Even if he only revealed them, it would still be a huge burden. More importantly, Bailey Fengshen had taken the most crucial step, breaking ties with the Snow Empress. When he learned that the Snow Empress had killed Long Xiao, he didn't dare to break ties with the Snow Empress. He was filled with regret. Nie Tian's incident was like a fuse that ignited the flames of hatred that he had suppressed for more than 100 years. Just like he had said, he wouldn't let himself regret it a second time. Heavenly Gong walked over with Nie Tian in his arms and placed him on the ground. Lord Illusory Emperor, can you take a look and see if Nie Tian is all right? Bailey Fengshen looked at Nie Tian and furrowed his brow. Nie Tian's face was black and green. His entire body was emanating a terrifying demonic aura. His divine sense was extremely weak, as if it would disappear at any moment. Illusion Emperor, how is Nie Tian? Is he all right? Tian Gong asked anxiously when he saw Bailey Fengshen frowning and not speaking. I can feel that his body is fusing with the heart of nothingness. The heart of nothingness is too strong. Whether Nie Tian can withstand it depends on himself, Bailey Fengshen said. He looked very worried. Fusing with the heart of nothingness? Tian Gong was stunned when he heard Bailey Fengshen's words. He exclaimed, the heart of nothingness is the demonic sovereign fire. The power it contains is thousands of times stronger than the twilight blade heart flame. How can Nie Tian withstand it? Fusing with demonic fire was very risky. One could be swallowed by the demonic fire if one wasn't careful. Many heavenly emperors had to take a huge risk when fusing with ordinary demonic fire. Nie Tian was fusing with the demonic sovereign fire directly. That was too perverse. Not necessarily. Bailey Fengshen nodded and said, Nie Tian has a very strange power in his body that can suppress the heart of nothingness's devouring power. Maybe he can succeed. The heart of nothingness devoured heaven and earth. If it were an ordinary peak, heavenly emperor powerhouse, or even the legendary deity realm powerhouses, fusing with the heart of nothingness, they would have long been devoured. However, Tian was able to hold on for so long, indicating that his martial body was different from ordinary people. Let's hope it works. Tian Gong gulped, but his expression was one of extreme shock. He thought to himself, if Tian really succeeds in merging with the heart of nothingness, I wonder how monstrous he will become. Ghost Scar and Dugu and I had fused with half of the Twilight Blade Heart Flame, and both of them had the possibility of advancing to the Divine Realm. Tian had fused with the Heart of Nothingness, which was thousands of times stronger than the Twilight Blade Heart Flame. Advancing to the Divine Realm was inevitable. At this moment, Zhuo Qianxin's eyes trembled slightly, and he exclaimed, "The aura of the first nightmare." As expected, Bailey Fengshan stood up abruptly. He had also sensed the aura of the first nightmare. In the next moment, a ball of 7-colored flames shot out from the canyon and soared into the sky. It was trying to escape. "Qianxin, I'll help you trap it, and you can merge with it." Bailey Fengshan's eyes trembled, and he moved his body. He opened his hand, and a huge illusory power surged out. The dark night dust barrier appeared and directly enveloped the ball of 7-colored flames. It turned out that the first nightmare had not left, but had been hiding in the canyon. The first nightmare had constructed an illusion, and it was very weak at the moment, so it was the best time to merge with it. "Master," Zhuo Qianxin's figure flew into the sky, and he hesitated in mid-air. Bailey Fengshan obviously knew what Zhuo Qianxin was thinking, and said in a deep voice, "Qianxin, you have the incubus demonic seal in your body, so you have more confidence in merging with the first nightmare. Don't hesitate." Both master and disciple had the possibility of merging with the first nightmare. Bailey Fengshan took the initiative to withdraw at this time, of course, for Zhuo Qianxin's sake. Bailey Fengshan knew that Zhuo Qianxin's potential was greater than his, so he was willing to give the first nightmare to his disciple. Zhuo Qianxin no longer hesitated, and he nodded his head. His figure moved, and he directly entered the 7-colored flame. The moment Zhuo Qianxin entered the 7-colored flame, the flame suddenly became violent. It wanted to escape, but it was trapped by the dark night sealing boundary. After a while, the first nightmare calmed down, as if it had begun to accept Zhuo Qianxin, and turned into balls of 7-colored flame, which flowed into the latter's body. In just an instant, the first nightmare had completely entered Zhuo Qianxin's body. Very good. Bailey Fengshan saw this scene, and he let out a long breath, but his face was slightly pale. After using the rainbow illusory wings and the dark night sealing boundary consecutively, his origin energy was running out. Zhuo Qianxin had already merged with the first nightmare, and what he needed to do next was to slowly refine the power of the demonic flame. However, this was not something that could be done in a day, and it would take at least a few months or even a few years. Seeing that Zhuo Qianxin had successfully merged with the first nightmare, Tian Gong was extremely happy. He took a step forward and said with a heavy voice, "Lord Illusion Emperor, let's leave." He was a bit worried that Chen Xinwen and the others might not let this matter go, so it was better to leave Purgatory Mountain as soon as possible. Moreover, Tian was currently unconscious, so he had to be placed in a safe place. All right. Bailey Fengshan's eyes narrowed slightly. He scanned the valley with his divine sense, and after confirming that there were no other demonic flames, he nodded and prepared to leave. Everyone did not waste any more time, and they leaped into the sky. High up in the sky, they were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they were about to leave Purgatory Mountain. There's someone. Right at this moment, Bailey Fengshan's face suddenly darkened, and he looked into the void. Ghost Mark and the others were stunned, and their figures immediately stopped. "Lord Illusion Emperor, are you in such a hurry to leave?" Then, the void trembled slightly, and 3 figures appeared. Their auras surged like the sea, extremely terrifying. "Chen Xinwen, it's you again." Bailey Function's face instantly darkened when he saw the newcomers. He said in a cold voice, "I have already warned you. Don't pester me anymore." Among the three figures, besides Chun Shinwen and Duguin Ai, there was also a man in black. It was the commander of the Snow God's Imperial Guards, Qian Qinyu. The three peak experts blocked Bailey Fengshen and the others forcefully. "Bailey Fengshen, Nie Tian must die today." Chun Shinwen's lips curled up coldly, and he said sinisterly, "As long as you leave him here, we can let you go. Do you think that's possible?" Bailey Fengshen frowned slightly and said in a cold voice, "I've already said that I will personally explain this matter to the Snow Emperor. You don't need to worry about it." Bailey Fengshen suppressed his anger. Just Chen Xinwen and the other two could not stop him. Boom! However, right at this moment, the void suddenly shook violently, and then a figure appeared in the void. He was dressed in white, and his body was surrounded by frost. It was extremely strange. "Illusion Emperor, I am here." The figure in white stepped in the void, and his cold eyes locked onto Bailey Fengshen. He smiled and said coldly, "I want to hear how you are going to explain to me." Chapter 13:17. High up in the sky, a white-robed figure stepped down from the sky. His aura was like the mountains and the seas, and it pressed down endlessly. At this moment, even the space was pulled tight. It was none other than the Snow Empress, one of the 9 emperors. Snow Empress. Tian Gong and the rest exclaimed when they saw the Snow Empress. They froze on the spot. No wonder Chen Xinwen and the others dared to stop them. They knew that the Snow Empress would come personally. Bailey Fengshen's eyes trembled as he stared at the Snow Empress in front of him. After that, he calmed down and revealed a cold look in his eyes. Killing intent. The Snow Empress focused her gaze. She could clearly sense the killing intent in Bailey Fengshen's eyes. "Illusion Emperor, what do you mean by this?" The Snow Empress furrowed her brow and spoke coldly. Originally, he had thought that Bailey Fengshen would obediently hand over Nie Tian after his arrival. He did not expect that not only did Bailey Fengshen not want to hand over Nie Tian, but he even wanted to kill him. Shui Ling Tian. Bailey Fengshen suddenly lifted his head, and the Snow Empress name became even colder. He uttered the Snow Empress name word by word as he said coldly, "Today, we shall settle our differences." And after hearing Bailey Fengshen's words, everyone was stunned, and their eyes flickered. Could there be some deep hatred between the Snow Empress and the Illusion Emperor? Bailey Fengshen had called the Snow Empress by her name. It was obvious that they were going to break off their relationship. What exactly had happened between them? The Snow Empress was also momentarily stunned, but she immediately understood what was going on. She laughed coldly and said, "Bailey Fengshen, so you were the one who was secretly investigating Long Zhao's death." Bailey Fengshen had never married. He only had one close friend, and that was Long Outyan's father, Long Zhao. If there was anyone worthy of his falling out with the Snow Empress, it could only be Long Zhao. It seemed like the Snow Empress already knew that Bailey Fengshen was investigating Long Zhao's death. It was just that she didn't know who was investigating. Given Bailey Fengshen's attitude, it was obvious that he was investigating Long Zhao's death. "Shueling Tian, Brother Long Zhao has no enmity with you, but you actually killed him for the sake of his true dragon body. I've been suppressing this hatred in my heart for over 100 years. It's time to put an end to it," Bailey Fengshen said in a deep voice. His eyes were filled with a sharp, murderous intent. The Snow Empress had come personally, but Bailey Fengshen had no intention of handing Huiyuhao over. Right now, both parties were like fire and water, and they would not rest until one of them was dead. "Old Snow Empress, you kill my father." At this moment, a furious roar sounded from the void. Following this, a sinister black bony claw appeared and pounced towards the Snow Empress. A desolate ghost bone. The sudden scene caused everyone to be startled. Looking at the sinister bone claw, they all cried out in surprise. The sinister bony claw came crashing down from the sky towards the Snow Empress. Its immense power engulfed heaven and earth. Courting death, the Snow Empress focused her gaze and suddenly lifted her head. She locked her eyes on a figure in the distant sky and uttered 2 words coldly. She struck out with her palm, and a huge hand of ice and frost appeared. Boom! The 2 palms collided, and an explosion sounded in the void. The sinister bony claw was shattered, and the huge hand of ice and frost continued to attack the figure in the distance. Out Yin, the illusion emperor reacted suddenly. He saw that the figure in the distance was Long Out Yin. Everyone's attention was on the Snow Empress and the illusion emperor, so they did not realize that Long Out Yin had arrived. Long Out Yin was furious when he heard that the Snow Empress had killed his father, and he charged towards the Snow Empress. However, he was not even at the peak of his strength. How could he be a match for a demigod supreme being? The Snow Empress had destroyed his all-out attack with a single palm strike. Boom! At this moment, the huge hand of ice and frost pressed down in the void, and the space froze instantly. Long Out Yin stood in the same place, but he was on the verge of collapsing. If he was hit by the Snow Emperor's palm strike, he would be crippled even if he did not die. Bailey Function's eyes flickered intensely when he saw this scene. Everything happened in an instant. Even if he attacked now, it would be too late. Boom! Boom! At that critical moment, 2 gigantic sword shadows suddenly appeared in the void and blasted out. They actually merged together in an instant and directly descended, bombarding the giant frost hand. Kaboom! The void trembled slightly, and a loud explosion was heard. The huge hand of ice and frost couldn't withstand the power of the 2 sword shadows, and it collapsed immediately. In the next moment, 2 figures appeared. They were like 2 sharp swords, and they stood in the sky. These 2 people were able to block the Snow Empress attack, so they must be top-notch experts. Sword Saint and Sword Emperor. The Illusion Emperor and the others were stunned when they saw the 2 people's faces. The 2 people who had saved Long Out Yin were none other than Nye Tian's 2 best friends, the Limitless Sword Saint, Imo Qianjun, and the Western Sword Emperor, Jiu Qiansheng. The reason why Long Out Yin had appeared here was because he had brought Imo Qianjun and Jiu Qiansheng to find Nye Tian. Lin Ling had left with Elder Peng and Elder Peng half a month ago to find Imo Qianjun, and Jiu Qiansheng had followed them. The 2 of them were worried that something had happened to Nye Tian, so they came out to look for him. They happened to see what was happening in front of them. It's the 2 of them. Tian Gong was delighted when he saw Imo Qianjun and Jiu Qiansheng. He revealed a smile on his face. He knew that Bailey Fengshen and Ghost Scar couldn't possibly take Hu Yuhao away in front of the Snow Empress and the other 3 top-notch experts. Imo Qianjun and Jiu Qiansheng had appeared at the right time. With these 2 people around, their chances of escaping with Nye Tian had greatly increased. It's these 2. The Snow Empress' eyes narrowed when she saw the Sword Saint and Sword Emperor. There was a tinge of worry in her eyes. Imo Qianjun and Jiu Qiansheng were both top-notch experts in the way of the sword. Furthermore, they were very close to Nye Tian. Their appearance had added a lot of variables to the current situation. Nye Tian, Imo Qianjun, and Jiu Qiansheng relaxed when they saw that Long Out Yin was fine. However, they couldn't help but exclaim in unison when they saw Nye Tian on Tian Gong's body. The 2 of them were like sharp swords as they arrived beside Tian Gong in a flash. The 2 of you have come at the right time. Tian Gong laughed bitterly and said, "If you had come a little later, I'm afraid we wouldn't even have seen Nye Tian's corpse." Lord Tian Gong, what's wrong with Nye Tian? Imo Qianjun could sense Nye Tian's aura. There was a strong aura of devil fire, and his divine sense was a little weak. He couldn't help but ask in alarm. He's fusing with the devil fire. I hope he succeeds. Tian Gong didn't explain too much and only answered plainly. Given the current situation, it was best for them to leave as soon as possible. If they couldn't leave, Nye Tian would die regardless of whether he could successfully fuse with the Heart of Nothingness. The Snow Empress viewed him as a thorn in her side. How about you let him live? Long Out Yin also arrived at this moment. When he saw that Nye Tian was unconscious, he couldn't help but roar furiously, "Big brother!" He thought that the Snow Empress had injured Nye Tian, and the fury in his eyes intensified as he glared at the Snow Empress. However, the Snow Empress didn't even look at Long Out Yin. The latter's abilities weren't worthy of her attention at all. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the Snow Empress could instantly kill Long Outyin. Chapter 13:18. The Snow Emperor stared at Imo Qianjun and Zhou Qiansheng with a murderous look in his eyes. In fact, he had wanted to kill them a long time ago, but he never found the opportunity. Now that he had shed all pretense of cordiality, there was nothing to be afraid of. The Snow Empress didn't need to pretend to be noble anymore. This time, he was going to be the real villain. Tiangong sensed the Snow Emperor's murderous intent and furrowed his brows. He swept his gaze across everyone and gasped in shock. There were too many peak experts gathered here. There were 8 of them. The 9 emperors, the Snow Emperor, the Illusion Emperor Bailey Fengchun, the Pill Emperor Chen Xinwen, the Limitless Sword Sainamo Qianjun, the Sword Emperor Zhou Qiansheng, the Evil Sword Dugu Ni, the North Sea Swordsman Gui Hen, the Snow God Imperial Guard Commander Qian Chenyu. If Niet Tian was included, there would be a total of 9 peak experts. However, Niet Tian was unconscious and unable to fight. Even so, if the other 8 were to fight to the death, it would still be earth-shattering. If this battle started, the entire Purgatory Mountain would be razed to the ground. Boom! However, at this moment, the void suddenly shook. A figure flickered through the air, his enormous aura forming a world of its own. Emperor Daynite. Everyone trembled when they saw the person's face, and their voices became shrill. Another pinnacle expert had arrived, Luo Chenhun, the great emperor of Chenhun. Lord Snow Empress, I'm not late, am I? Luo Chenhun landed not far from the Snow Empress and addressed himself as a subordinate. The 9 emperors were the rulers of the Heaven Realm. Although the Snow Emperor was one of the 9 emperors, the 9 of them did not have a subordinate relationship. Luo Chenhun called himself his subordinate in front of the Snow Emperor. It was obvious that he was trying to flatter him. No, the Snow Emperor smiled. He knew that Luo Chenhun would come, and he came at the right time. Luo Chenhuan's arrival reversed the situation. It was originally 4 against 4, but now it was 4 against 5. Although Long Outyin wasn't weak, there was still a gap between him and a pinnacle powerhouse. This is bad. Tiangong frowned, and his heart sank. Bailey Fengchun, I'll give you one more chance. Forget about Long Xiao and hand over Niet Tian to me. Are you still the 9 emperors or the Illusion Emperor? At this moment, the Snow Empress took a step forward, and the corner of her mouth curled into a cold smile. She seemed very high and mighty. He had to admit that he was quite intimidated by Bailey Fengchun's strength. Bailey Fengchun's position among the 9 God Kings was second only to him. If they were to engage in a battle of life and death, the outcome would be hard to predict. If he could make Bailey Fengchun submit now, that would be the final result. Shueling Tian, you underestimate me, Bailey Fengchun. Bailey Fengchun smiled coldly and said, if this is an opportunity, I'd rather not have it. He was determined to avenge Long Xiao, and he was determined to hand over Niet Tian. If that's the case, I'm going to start a massacre today. The Snow Empress's eyes darkened. Without any hesitation, she unleashed her aura. Suddenly, frost and snow appeared within a radius of tens of thousands of meters. A layer of ice crystals appeared and spread in the void. Snow Cloud, Sacred Body. Bailey Fengchun's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Bailey Fengchun, I've given you a chance to live. If you don't cherish it, don't blame me for what will happen to you. The Snow Empress leaped into the air, and her aura became more and more intense. Her voice echoed in the void, causing the void to tremble violently. Luo Chenhun and the others immediately dispersed, not daring to get too close to the Snow Empress. Shueling Tian, I'll definitely avenge Long Xiao. Bailey Fengchun unleashed his aura as well, and a pair of rainbow wings appeared on his back. The dreamy rainbow light spread in the void and resisted the icy frost and snow. Chi, chi, chi. An ear-piercing sound was heard in the void. The 2 auras collided with each other, and the void seemed to be slowly exploding. It was extremely terrifying. What a terrifying duo. The rest of the people saw this scene and retreated tens of thousands of meters away. They were all shocked. Chen Xinwen's forehead was covered in sweat. He finally realized that if he had fought Bailey Fengshan head-on just now, he would definitely have died under the rainbow wings. Snow Cloud's sacred body, Cloud Wave Strike. At that moment, the Snow Empress shouted and struck out with her palm. A rolling palm print appeared in the sky. It was like an ancient beast wreaking havoc in the void. Almost at the same time, the rainbow wings on Bailey Fengshan's back suddenly closed, and a ray of rainbow light appeared. It was like a ripple in the void. Wherever the rainbow light passed, the frost and snow immediately melted, and everything became clear. A terrifying illusory power pervaded the air like a spring breeze and rain, possessing the power to melt everything. Rumble. In the next moment, the rainbow light and the snowy palm print collided, and the void shook. Suddenly, the void wailed, and the sky changed color. It was as if the entire world was shaking. Peak heavenly emperors understood the laws of heaven and earth, and they could affect the power of heaven and earth with just a simple gesture. The Snow Empress and the Illusion Emperor could be said to be at the peak of the peak. It was evident how powerful their head-on collision was. Boom! An enormous air wave surged in the void, and the colorful light was mixed with a chilling intent. It was extremely terrifying. Everyone trembled slightly, and they could not help but retreat again. The Snow Empress and the Illusion Emperor trembled, and they retreated a few hundred meters at the same time. This was the first time they had fought head-on, and they were evenly matched. Bailey Fengshan's strength is terrifying, and he is able to fight the Snow Empress head-on. Chen Xinwen could not help but exclaim, "The Snow Empress has not revealed her true strength. It is still too early to say such things." Du Guan'ai smiled playfully, but he thought to himself, Shui Lingtian's strongest strength is the god's right hand. I wonder if Bailey Fengshan can withstand an attack from a demigod. Du Guan'ai uttered the Snow Empress name in his mind. It seemed like he was not as respectful to the Snow Empress as he appeared to be. At this moment, Du Guan'ai suddenly looked at Zhuo Qianshen and thought to himself, an illusionist is too powerful. Bailey Fengshan will definitely die. It seems like I have to deal with Zhuo Qianshen personally. Bailey Fengshan was only a rank 7 illusionist, but he was able to fight the Snow Empress. It was too terrifying. Zhuo Qianshen's talent in illusions was above Bailey Fengshan's. If he was allowed to grow, he would definitely be more terrifying than Bailey Fengshan in the future. Du Guan'ai's favorite thing to do was to kill geniuses. Sword Saint, Sword Sovereign, take Niet Tian away. At this moment, Bailey Fengshan's body moved, and he retreated a few thousand meters to a place not far from Long Outyin. Mo Qianjun and Zhou Qiansheng looked at each other and said at the same time, I will stay. You take Niet Tian away. Both of them knew that their lives would be in danger if they stayed, and they hoped that the other party would take Niet Tian away. They looked at each other and smiled. Then, they looked at Gui Hen and said, Brother Gui Hen, I will leave Niet Tian to you. Since both of them were unwilling to leave, they would both stay, and Gui Hen would take Niet Tian and the others away. Do you want to leave? At this moment, several figures flew over, and a deep voice rang out. Chapter 1319. Mo Qianjun and Zhou Qiansheng originally wanted to let Ghost Scar bring Niet Tian and the rest to leave, but they were blocked by Du Guan'ai and the rest. Crap! The hearts of Mo Qianjun and the rest sunk, their expressions becoming solemn. Du Guan'ai and the rest blocked the way forcefully. If they insisted on letting Ghost Scar bring Niet Tian away, it would be even more dangerous instead. Chen Xinwen, Qian Xinyu, Du Guan'ai, Luo Chenhun. The four of them were all peak Heavenly Emperor powerhouses. Any two of them could delay Mo Qianjun and Zhu Qiansheng. If they let Ghost Scar leave, that was letting him face two peak powerhouses alone. Furthermore, he still had to bring Niet Tan, Tian Gong, as well as Zhuo Qianshen and the rest. Sword Saint, Sword Sovereign, Sword Slaughterer, looks like the three of you chose the wrong side. Du Guan'ai's figure flashed, directly flying over. His sinister gaze swept across Mo Qianjun and the rest as he spoke coldly. Du Guan'ai, Make your move. Mo Qianjun did not talk nonsense and said directly. His voice just faded when a boundless sword momentum appeared behind him. The sword intent surged out like raging waves, directly enveloping a stretch of the sky. Limitless great sky. Mo Qianjun actually directly used the primordial spirit sword and activated the sword seal, Great Sky Seal. Boom, boom, boom. The limitless great sky sword's aura skyrocketed frenziedly. The terrifying sword seal released surging power. The sword intent enveloped a stretch of space. Heaven and earth seemed to become unstable. The next instant, Mo Qianjun pointed with his longsword. But the great sky sword seal enveloped Niet Tian, Tiangong, and Zhui Qianxin. He used the great sky seal not to fight, but to protect Niet Tian and the rest. He knew that the following battle would definitely be earth-shattering. Hence, he had to protect Niet Tian and the rest in advance. My Lord Sword Sage, you use your most powerful Jun Tian seal to protect others. I wonder if you could take a strike from me. Du Guanai smirked when he saw this. A cold glint flashed in his eyes. He and Mo Qianjun were originally evenly matched, but after he fused with the Twilight Blade Heart Flame, his strength rose slightly. If Mo Qianjun used the Jun Tian sword seal on Niet Tian and the others, his strength would be greatly reduced. Under such circumstances, Du Guanai was confident that he could defeat Mo Qianjun. Du Guanai, your opponent is me. At this moment, the fiery Zhou Qian Sheng couldn't stand Du Guanai's sarcasm any longer. He let out an angry roar, and a black and red heavy sword appeared in his hand. It was his primordial spirit sword, the Ghost Scar of Dusk Night. Boom! Dusk Ghost Scar made his move. A terrifying sword shadow tore through the air with a tremendous momentum, shaking the heavens and earth as it blasted towards Du Guanai. You're courting death. Du Guanai squinted when he saw this. Then he let out a roar, and the 100 forms of the demonic virtual sword appeared in his hand. Boom! In the void, two huge sword shadows collided with each other. The space suddenly trembled violently, as if it was about to collapse. The terrible sword will raged in the air, and the sharp sword chi swept across the void, shooting in all directions. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. An ear-piercing sound came from the void. The violent forces collided with each other, forming billows of air that covered the sky and covered the earth. On the ground, the trees were broken, the rocks collapsed, and the earth seemed to be cracked by the impact. Fortunately, Mo Qianjun had prepared in advance and used the Juntian seal to protect Niet Tian and the others. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to bear the impact of such power. How delightful! Zhou Qianxing roared furiously. He revealed a sinister smile, and his figure directly rushed up to fight Du Guanai. In the sky, only the boundless sword could be seen colliding with each other, but the two people couldn't be seen. The battle of the pinnacle of swordsmanship shook the heavens and earth. It was extremely terrifying. Mo Qianjun ignored the two of them. He believed that with Zhou Qiansheng's strength, even if he couldn't defeat Du Guanai, he would definitely be able to protect himself. At this time, Chen Xinwen smiled cold and said to Luo Chenhun, Emperor Chenin, your old opponent is right in front of you. Make your move. Luo Chenhuan's lips curled into a cold smile. His eyes were fixed on Niet Tian, and he said coldly, Niet Tian, I didn't think that we would finally meet. This time, I will let you die without you knowing. Niet Tian and Luo Chenhun met again, but the former was unconscious. Is that possible? Mo Qianjun smiled faintly and looked cold at Luo Chenhun. As long as he was here, he would definitely not let anyone hurt Niet Tian. Mo Qianjun, you are indeed strong, but not strong enough to make me fear you. Luo Chenhun smiled sinisterly and took a step forward. His surging aura pressed down. Is that so? Mo Qianjun replied cold. The limitless heavenly sword slashed out and broke Luo Chenhuan's aura. After losing the heavenly sword seal, the power of the limitless heavenly sword was greatly reduced. It could only break Luo Chenhuan's aura, but it couldn't force the latter back. Do it. Luo Chunhun smiled coldly, but his eyes were filled with disdain. Chun Xinwen and Qian Xinyu didn't hesitate anymore. They moved at the same time and attacked Nie Tian. Don't even think about it. Ghost Scar's eyes darkened when he saw this. He slashed out with Ghost Night Rain, and a sword screen of water filled the air. The sword aura was extremely sharp. Chun Xinwen and Qian Xinyu attacked at the same time. Their palms struck the sword screen of water, but their bodies trembled and they were forced back more than 10 meters. After Ghost Scar had fused with the Dusk Blade's heart flame, his strength had exceeded the peak of an ordinary expert. He still had the upper hand against the two of them. Ghost Scar, you have nothing to do with Nie Tian. If you leave now, the Snow Empress will not pursue the matter. Chun Xinwen frowned and said. Ghost Scar laughed. His eyes shone with cold light under his black robe. He said coldly, I have said that Nie Tian is my friend. Stubborn. Chun Xinwen's eyes tightened. He roared and looked at Qian Xinyu. Both of them attacked Ghost Scar at the same time. In that instant, heaven and earth shook. Thunderclouds rolled, and the entire space was filled with frightening power. The battle between the 9 pinnacle experts was earth-shattering. Tian Gong looked at the scene in front of him. His nerves were taut, and his eyes were trembling. He muttered, Jiu Qiansheng and Dugu and I are fighting. Dugu and I has fused with the Dusk Blade's heart flame. Jiu Qiansheng will not be able to defeat him if the fight drags on. Mo Qianjun and Luo Chenhan. Mo Qianjun does not have the Jun Tian sword seal, so he will be at a disadvantage. Ghost Scar is fighting Qian Xinyu and Chun Xinwen alone. Even if he is fused with the Dusk Blade's heart flame, he will not be able to fight for long. All 3 sides were at a disadvantage, and Tian Gong felt very uneasy. War Tian Gong, what should we do? At this moment, Zhuo Qianshun spoke in a deep voice. His eyes were focused on the battle between the Illusion Emperor and the Snow Empress. Kid, we are too weak. We can only watch from the side. Tian Gong sighed. When he looked at Bailey Fengshun and the Snow Empress, he frowned again. Bailey Fengshun was very strong, but he was facing the Snow Empress, who was even stronger. At this moment, Bailey Fengshun was already struggling. If the Snow Empress used her god's right hand, he would not be able to fight back. The situation is dangerous. Tian Gong's heart skipped a beat. He could not help but look at Nie Tian. The latter's body was surging with black flames. They were like circles of frightening runes. It was extremely strange. Chapter 1320. In the skies above Purgatory Mountain, the world-shaking battle was still continuing. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of terrifying power descended from above. The entire Purgatory Mountain was on the verge of collapse. The battle between peak experts was too terrifying. However, at this time, Nie Tian's side was already at an absolute disadvantage. Die! Above the void, a sinister voice resounded. Dugu Enai stabbed out with his sword, and a gigantic sword that was thousands of meters long appeared in the space. It was Dugu Ni's giant spirit avatar, Devil Void Hunter transformations. Dugu Enai, who was using the giant spirit true body, completely released the power of the 100 Void Chi, firmly suppressing Jiu Qiansheng's sword intent. The 100 Void Chi not only had a weakening effect on oneself, but more importantly, it could weaken the opponent's strength by hundreds and thousands. Devil Void Hunter transformations was like a moving mountain in the sky. Above it was surging black mist. It was the 100 Void Chi. Jiu Qiansheng activated the Ghost Scar demonic seal within his body, and his entire body was enveloped by the blood-red demonic seal. Even so, he still could not completely resist the weakening power of the 100 Void Chi. Boom! The 100 forms of the devilish void shot through the air towards Jiu Qiansheng. Damn it, let's go all out. Jiu Qiansheng was extremely powerful. His eyes darkened, and the phantom scar of the setting night suddenly expanded. He had also used the giant spirit true body. In the void, the 2 giant swords were like 2 mountains, moving in extremely fast speed as they charged towards each other. No! Mo Qianjun couldn't help but scream when he saw this scene. He'd already sensed earlier that Jiu Qiansheng's origin energy was slightly lacking, and he'd already fallen into a disadvantageous position. It was simply too dangerous for Jiu Qiansheng to choose to fight with Duganese primordial spirit. However, it was already too late. The two giant swords were moving in the void like two ancient beasts. An earth-shattering sword cry resounded throughout the space, causing even the void to tremble. Boom! In the next moment, the demonic Void Hunter transformations and the Dusk Ghost Scar finally collided. The world shook, and a terrible explosion spread out from the center of the collision. An extremely terrifying wave of sword will blasted out, spreading in all directions. Chi-chi-chi. An ear-piercing sound rang out in the air as the sword intent wreaked havoc in the space, making it seem as though the space would collapse at any moment. The two giant swords collided with each other, and cracks appeared on them at the same time. Bastard, you want to perish together with me? Duganai suddenly sensed something and exclaimed with a trembling voice. Not only had Jiu Qiansheng used the Ghost Scar demonic seal, but he had also ignited his own blood chi. He wanted to take Duganai down with him. Duganai's figure moved, retreating several thousand meters away. Almost at the same time, a scream was heard, and Jiu Qiansheng was sent flying. In the end, he still lost to Duganai. 9,000 blossom. Mo Qinjuan's eyes flickered when he saw this. He turned into a ray of light and flew toward Jiu Qiansheng and hugged him. Old Mo, I tried my best. Jiu Qiansheng's body was covered in blood, and his breathing was weak. It was obvious that his primary spirit and primary meridians were severely injured. I tried my best. It was his last apology to Mo, Qianjun, and Ye Tian, and it was also his pride as a good friend. 9,000 blossom, you ignited your blood chi to fight against my primary spirit. You have damaged the foundation of your martial arts. You are destined to be a good-for-nothing for the rest of your life. At that moment, Duganese figure appeared. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were extremely fierce. Bastard, Mo Qianjun roared. The blood chi in his body was boiling, and his long hair was flying in the air. It was as if he had turned into a demon. He hated himself for being so weak that he could not protect the people around him. On the other side, Ghost Scar was gradually being forced into a dead end. Luo Chenhun and the other two surrounded him. Oh no! Tiangong's heart froze when he saw this. He looked at Niet Tian anxiously, hoping that the latter would wake up. Bailey Fengshun, this is the end. At that moment, the Snow Empress voice was heard. She threw a punch, and a golden fist shadow roared. It was the right hand of the god. Bang! With a muffled sound, Bailey Fengshun was sent flying. The 7-colored wings on his back could not hold on any longer. They shattered, and he fell to the ground like a kite with a broken string. Emperor of Illusion. Long Outyin shouted. He flew to Bailey Fengshun and caught him in his arms. Outyin! Bailey Fengshun looked at the son of his old friend, and his eyes trembled. He said, I knew it was Shui Lingtian who killed Brother Long Shao. I didn't avenge him, and I didn't tell you the truth. I'm sorry. Emperor of Illusion, don't say sorry. It's all that bastard Shui Lingtian's fault. I must kill him. Long Outyin roared angrily. His face was distorted. Bailey Fengshun, you didn't see me kill Long Shao. Today, I'll let you see his son die in front of you. At that moment, the Snow Empress arrived. She took a step forward, and her aura was overwhelming, pressing down on Long Outyin. Outyin, there's something I haven't told you yet. However, Bailey Fengshun did not care about the Snow Empress words. The corner of his mouth twitched, and a ray of light surged out of his body and entered Long Outyin's body. Long Outyin was slightly stunned. He suddenly felt a violent force exploding in his body, and it was about to tear him apart. 9-seal, true dragon, unseal it. In the next moment, Bailey Fengshun roared. He leaped into the air and turned into a 7-colored ray of flowing light, charging towards the Snow Empress. Bailey Fengshun did not care about his own life and attacked the Snow Empress. Illusion Empress. Long Outyin let out a roar when he saw Bailey Fengshun dashing out. However, the energy in his body suddenly went berserk. His meridians, flesh, and bone started to explode as a terrifying energy was unleashed from his body. Boom! At that moment, Bailey Fengshen ignited his last trace of blood to unleash the Dark Night dust-sealing boundary, which engulfed the Snow Empress. The Snow Empress' eyes froze, and she said, Bailey Fengshen, you're courting death. Is that so? Bailey Fengshen laughed coldly. His laughter was extremely terrifying and strange. Boom, boom, bang. At that moment, an explosive sound was heard from Long Outyen's body, as if a terrifying force was being unleashed. With the release of this power, his body underwent an extremely terrifying change. His body was expanding. Dragon scales appeared all over his body. Black dragon-shaped horns grew on top of his head, and his limbs turned into dragon claws. His entire body was actually transforming into a dragon. This is... The Snow Empress' eyes darkened when she saw this, and she blurted out, True dragon body. He did not expect Long Outyen to have the true dragon body. He only knew that Long Shao had the true dragon body, and that was why he killed him. However, he did not know that Long Outyen also had the true dragon body. Chapter 13:21. Nine Seals True Dragon. The Snow Empress was stunned when she heard this. She exclaimed, That's impossible. I have checked Long Outyen's body. He does not have the body of a true dragon. Bailey Fengshen, you must be lying to me. Is that so? Bailey Fengshen smiled coldly and said, Long Outyen was still a child when Brother Long Outyen was killed. I am guessing that someone must have coveted his body of a true dragon. That's why they killed him. That's why I left a seal in Long Outyen's body to suppress his body of a true dragon. Bailey Fengshen, you? The Snow Empress' eyes widened when she heard this. There was a look of shock in her eyes. She did not expect to be deceived by Bailey Fengshen. Xueling Tian, the seal I left in Long Outyen's body is the Rainbow Illusory Seal. Even though it can suppress the body of a true dragon, it can also stimulate the body of a true dragon. Bailey Fengshen's voice continued to speak cold. Long Outyen is the legendary Nine Seals true dragon. I would like to see if your god's right hand can go against a Nine Seals true dragon. Nine Seals true dragon? The Snow Empress roared. Her eyes were cold and murderous. Of course, she knew what a Nine Seals true dragon meant. The body of a true dragon was a heaven-rank spiritual body. The body of a true dragon was divided into 9 ranks, from the first seal true dragon to the 9 seals true dragon. Long Shao was a 6 seals true dragon back then. Unfortunately, he was still too weak and did not allow the Snow Empress to break through to the godly state. If he had known that Long Outyen was a 9 seals true dragon, he would have killed him at all costs to obtain the power of the 9 seals true dragon. If he had merged with the power of the 9 seals true dragon, he would have definitely broken through to the godly state. Bailey Fengshen, you bastard. The Snow Empress was enraged when she thought of this. It was Bailey Fengshen who had caused her to lose her chance to break through to the godly state. The enraged Snow Empress roared and threw a punch with the right hand of God. The Dark Night dust barrier instantly shattered. Bailey Fengshen's body could no longer withstand the saint energy. At this moment, he looked at Long Outyen, who was in the midst of his dragonification, and muttered, Brother Long Outyen, this is as far as I can go. Bang! In the next moment, Bailey Fengshen's body shook violently and exploded into a bloody light. Bailey Fengshen, one of the 9 emperors, the Illusion Emperor, had fallen. The sudden scene stunned everyone on the spot, and their hearts beat violently. Everyone had guessed that the Illusion Emperor was likely to be killed by the Snow Empress. However, it was still very shocking when it actually happened. Teacher. In the distance, Zhuo Qianshan saw the bloody scene, and his choked throat finally produced a sound. He let out a low roar, and he could no longer hold back his tears. Although he and Bailey Fengshen were master and disciple, they were like father and son. Bailey Fengshen had never married in his life, and he only took Zhuo Qianshan as his disciple. He treated him like his own son, and the relationship between master and disciple was indescribable. How could Zhuo Qianshan not be heartbroken when he saw his teacher die in front of him in such a bloody scene? Chun Xinwen, Luo Chenhun, and the rest were also stunned. They did not expect the Snow Empress to really kill Bailey Fengshen. No matter what, the Illusion Emperor was one of the 9 emperors and was appointed by the upper domain. If the Snow Empress killed Bailey Fengshun, how was he going to explain it to the upper domain? However, the Snow Empress did not care about anything at this moment. Her pair of greedy eyes stared at Long Outyen, who was still in his dragonification, with a burning gaze. He must get the 9 seal true dragon. Roar! At this moment, Long Outyen finally completed his dragonification. He clearly saw the scene of Bailey Fengshun being tortured to death by the Snow Empress. His dragon body flipped in the air, and he roared into the sky. The dragon roar reverberated in the void, and heaven and earth resonated. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, and their eyes became blurry. This was the power of the 9 seal true dragon. It was too terrifying. Right now, Long Outyen's body was more than 3,000 meters tall. It was even more terrifying than the giant spiritual true body of a peak heavenly emperor. What was even stranger was that the dragon scales on his body shone with 7 colors, while one of his dragon arms was black, and it was a bone arm. When Long Outyen was young, Bailey Fengshun planted a rainbow illusory seal in his body. Unknowingly, the rainbow illusory seal had already fused with the 9 seal true dragon. When Bailey Fengshun unsealed the rainbow illusory seal, the 9 seal true dragon's body appeared, and the dragon scales on his body shone with 7 colors. As for the bone arm, it was naturally the 8 desolation ghost bone. The 9 seal true dragon had fused perfectly with the rainbow illusory seal and the 8 desolation ghost bone. The 9 seal true dragon's huge body tumbled in the void. Its eyes were like the sun and the moon as it stared at the Snow Empress. Boom! In the next moment, the true dragon's body suddenly moved and it charged towards the Snow Empress. How could Long Outyen let go of Shui Ling Tian, who was in front of him, to avenge his father's death? Long Outyen, your 9 seal true dragon has just been unsealed. I want to see how strong you are. The Snow Empress spoke coldly. She clenched her right hand into a circle and punched out. The void trembled, and a huge fish shadow appeared and attacked the 9 seal true dragon. Boom! A dull sound could be heard. The 9 seal true dragon completely ignored the Snow Empress attack and directly broke through the fish shadow. Its earth-shaking draconic might came crashing down, and it was determined to kill the Snow Empress on the spot. The Snow Empress' eyes darkened. Evidently, she did not expect the 9 seal true dragon's strength to be so strong that even her god's right hand could not resist it. What terrifying strength! The others were also stunned, and they could not believe what they were seeing. The strength that Long Outyen had displayed was too terrifying. It seemed to be at the godly state level, and he was not afraid of the Snow Empress god's right hand at all. It was too terrifying. The Snow Empress moved like a bolt of white lightning, and she rose into the sky. A strange smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, and she thought to herself, 9 seal true dragon, It seems like I'm going to show my true strength today. Everyone thought that the god's right hand was the Snow Empress' strongest trump card. Unfortunately, they were all wrong. At this moment, the Snow Empress' body trembled slightly, and a frightening strength surged out. The entire space was immediately engulfed, and instantly turned into a world of ice and snow. Everyone was stunned when they saw this. No one expected the Snow Empress to have an even stronger trump card other than the god's right hand. 9 seal true dragon, I want to see if you can withstand the 7th seal, the ice-sealing devilish seal. The Snow Empress' voice rang out as she looked at the huge true dragon beneath her. There was a look of disdain in her eyes. Her greatest trump card was not the god's right hand, but the 6th seal of the 10 great seals, the ice-sealing devilish seal. Ice-sealing devilish seal. Everyone's hearts trembled when they heard these words, and their eyes were filled with shock. Luo Chenhun, what are you waiting for? Kill Nye Tian. The Snow Empress' voice rang out at this moment. She could sense that Nye Tian seemed to be fusing with some kind of power, and it was better to kill him as soon as possible, just in case. Now that they had Long Outyen's 9 seal true dragon, Nie Tian was no longer as important. Luo Chunhun and the rest reacted, and their murderous gazes locked onto Nie Tian. Boom! At this moment, Nie Tian's body trembled slightly, and a ball of black flames was released and blossomed. Chapter 1322. Just as Luo Chunhun was about to attack Nie Tian and the others, Nie Tian, who had been in a coma, suddenly reacted. All of a sudden, Nie Tian's body began to tremble. Black flames suddenly burst out of his body and spread out into the air. Bang! With a muffled sound, the Jun Tian sword seal that wrapped around his body directly collapsed. The black flames spread in the void like rolling dark clouds, as if they were going to devour everything. What was strange was that these black flames actually avoided Tiangong and Zhuo Qianshun and did not cause any harm to them. It was obvious that Nie Tian was controlling these flames. Tiangong's body trembled slightly, and he took a few steps back in the void. He said in a trembling voice, "The heart of nihility has been successfully integrated." Hearing this name, Luo Chunhun, Chun Xinwen, and the others were stunned, and they froze on the spot. Chun Xinwen watched as the heart of nihility entered Nie Tian's body. He had originally thought that Nie Tian would be devoured by the heart of nihility, but he did not expect that Nie Tian could integrate with the heart of nihility. In an instant, Chun Xinwen frowned, and his whole body trembled inexplicably, as if he had been hit. He knew how terrifying the heart of nihility was. If Nie Tian really integrated with the heart of nihility, how terrifying would he be after awakening? Emperor Chenin, let's attack together and kill Nie Tian. If we wait for him to wake up, we'll be in trouble. Realizing this, Chun Xinwen screamed, and his figure moved. He struck out with his palm, suddenly aiming to kill Nie Tian. Almost at the same time, Luo Chunhun also reacted and also struck out with his palm. Like a thunderbolt, the palm force was released, condensing into a huge handprint, and blasted towards Nie Tian. "Don't kill him," Ghost Scar shouted when he saw the situation. He wanted to take action, but a black mist suddenly appeared above his head. It was boundless, covering him. Damn it! The one who attacked him was none other than Qian Xinyu. At this time, Qian Xinyu only needed to restrain Ghost Scar. There was no need to fight him head-on. Ghost Scar was being held up by Qian Xinyu and could not split himself. Moreover, his Yuan power was quickly being consumed. If he forcefully used the ultimacy doppelganger at this moment, it was extremely likely that his life would be in danger. Moreover, he had just fused with the Dusk Blade Heart Flame. If the Yuan power in his body was extremely weak, the Dusk Blade Heart Flame might leave his body. On the other side, Zhuo Qianxin looked at the strange scene in front of him. Just as he was about to speak, he felt a wave of cold and murderous intent, causing him to shiver uncontrollably. "Zhuo Qianxin, leave Nie Tian to them. You're mine." Dugu and I chuckled, his cold eyes locked on Zhuo Qianxin. He wanted to kill the latter to eliminate any future troubles. The power of an illusionist was too strange. If he let Zhuo Qianxin live, he would be a big problem in the future. Oh no! Tiangong's heart trembled when he saw this scene, and his expression suddenly changed. Although Zhuo Qianxin had fused with the first nightmare, the gap between him and a peak expert was extremely large. He could not block Dugani's killing move. Die! Dugu and I let out a low growl. His figure turned into a beam of black light as he charged straight at Zhuo Qianxin. The 100 transformations of the demonic void released the 100 void chi, which condensed into a pair of black palm prints in the void and pressed down wildly. Heaven and earth laws coupled with the 100 void chi, coupled with the sharpness of the ultimate sword, profound meaning. This sword of Duganese vowed to kill in one blow. Zhuo Qianshan stood in the void, the devil rainbow sword appearing in his hand. Striking out with a devil rainbow, piercing the sun's 7-colored sword, light bloomed in the air, wanting to make a final resistance. Unfortunately, his strength was too weak. An ant also wants to overturn the heavens. Dugu and I smiled coldly. Zhuo Qianshan's strength was only at the 5th level Heavenly Emperor. It was not enough to look at all. The berserk black palm print pressed over frenziedly. Zhuo Qianxin's seven-colored sword light was directly annihilated inside. Just as he was about to be hit by the black palm print, an abnormality suddenly occurred. Rumble. The void suddenly swayed a little. A streak of black light soared through the air and actually instantly spread into a sea of black flames, forming a shield of black flames, enveloping Zhuo Qianxin. Rumble. When Duguni's fatal blow landing on that shield of black flames, it was actually directly absorbed, devoured, vanishing from sight. MN. Seeing this scene, Duguni's brows furrowed, his expression incomparably surprised. Following that, he turned to look at Nie Tian, the surprise in his eyes instantly replaced by cold, killing intent. Nie Tian had yet to wake up. Being besieged by Luo Chenhun and Chen Xinwen, he could actually still divert attention to save Zhuo Qianxin. It was seriously too terrifying. Rumble. At virtually the same time, Luo Chenhun and Chen Xinwen's attacks descended, crushing onto Nie Tian with a loud bang. Right at this instant, Nie Tian's eyes suddenly snapped open. His figure moved, standing up. His eyes shot out a strange black light, terrifying black flames surging all over his body, as if a fiend god had descended to the world. Rumble. A hint of a cold smile curled up at the corners of Nie Tian's mouth, and he casually smacked a palm out. A handprint condensed from the black flames of nothingness appeared, pouncing out frenziedly. Rumble. The void trembled, heaven and earth wailed. Luo Chenhun and Chen Xinwen's attacks were actually directly shattered by the impact of the black flames of nothingness, instantly being devoured. Nie Tian, the sudden scene that happened made Luo Chenhun and Chen Xinwen stunned, their figures retreating wildly as they cried out in surprise. At this moment, they discovered that Nie Tian's strength actually already reached 9th level Heavenly Emperor. Very clearly, Nie Tian really fused with the Heart of Nothingness. That was how he could increase his strength. Heart of Nothingness, the legendary supreme fiend fire. How could Nie Tian's martial physique be so powerful to be able to fuse with the supreme fiend fire? In the distance, seeing that Nie Tian finally woke up, Tian Gong cried out in surprise, agitated until he was about to cry, Nie Tian. When Mo Qianjun and Zhu Qiansheng, two people, saw that Nie Tian woke up, they shouted at the same time, incredibly excited. Nie Tian's figure moved like a streak of black light, directly arriving beside Mo Qianjun and Zhu Qiansheng. Divine sense instantly swept over, confirming that the two people were not in mortal danger. His expression eased up slightly. Everything that happened just now, Nie Tian knew all about it. Even though he was in a coma, his divine sense was still awake. When he was unconscious, the Heart of Nothingness released the apocalyptic power in its body, wanting to perish together with Nie Tian. But it was suppressed by the Origin Star Stone. No idea why the Origin Star Stone and the Heart of Nothingness underwent some kind of fusion. This kind of fusion not only increased Nie Tian's strength, but it also made the star power's originally heaven-defying devouring power have a qualitative improvement. At this time, with a casual attack from Nie Tian, he could release a very terrifying devouring power. Nie Tian was still unclear what kind of astonishing change the Heart of Nothingness brought to his martial physique. He just had a feeling that it seemed like the Origin Star Stone was completely transformed by the Heart of Nothingness. Brother Mo, Brother Jiu, you guys retreat to one side. Leave the following matters to me. Nie Tian smiled faintly. Waving his hand, he sent Mo Qianjun and Zhou Qiansheng to a safe area. Following that, his figure moved, arriving in front of Luo Chenhun and the rest. Chapter 1323. In the void above, Nie Tianling stared coldly at Luo Chenhun. His eyes were burning with fury. In his previous life, Nie Tian had been murdered by Luo Chenhun and his daughter. This hatred was absolutely irreconcilable. Although the mastermind behind everything was the Snow Empress, the ones who had killed Nie Tian were Luo Chenhun and his daughter. Nie Tian. Luo, Chen Hun wasn't overly flustered as he faced Nie Tian. He only said Luo Chen Hun coldly. Since you already know everything, I won't explain anything. Everything I'm doing is not personal. I'm only doing it to give Luo Zian a better future. A better future? Nie Tianling laughed coldly. His eyes were full of disdain as he said, You want to sacrifice me so that your daughter can enter the upper domain, right? Yes. Luo Chenhun nodded solemnly. Then he smiled and said, If it were you, what would you do? Isn't it normal to make such a choice between a close relative and an outsider? Nie Tian clenched his fists slightly. The black flames around him became even more intense. The entire world seemed like it was about to be destroyed by the terrifying black flames. Luo Chenhun might have had his reasons for what happened back then, but those reasons couldn't be used as a reason to kill Nie Tian. He was also one of the 9 emperors. He didn't need to listen to the Snow Empress. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted Luo Zian to enter the upper domain, he wouldn't have killed Nie Tian. Everything had been driven by benefits. Luo Chenhun, I respect your status as an emperor, so I'll give you a dignified death. Kill yourself. Nie Tian's eyes instantly turned cold. He spoke in a low and domineering voice. Everyone was stunned when they heard his words. They couldn't react for a long time. Perhaps only Nie Tian would ask one of the 9 emperors, the Day-Night Emperor, to commit suicide. Nie Tian, are you that confident? Luo Chenhuan's eyes widened in anger. He really didn't believe that Nie Tian had the ability to kill him. Oomph. Suddenly, Nie Tianling laughed. His figure suddenly moved, and a pair of starlight wings seemed to appear on his back. His entire body was like a stream of light, streaking across the void. Swoosh! In the next moment, a sharp blade of black light appeared and shot out. It didn't look strong, but its speed was extremely fast. It was heading straight for Chen Xinwen. Pooh! Chen Xinwen didn't have time to react. He suddenly felt a chill on his neck, followed by the sound of flesh being pierced. Warm liquid spurted out. Under everyone's gaze, a bloody head flew in midair. It was precisely Chen Xinwen. When Luo Chenhun saw this scene, he was directly stunned on the spot, his expression astonished to the extreme. Bean-sized beads of sweat seeped out of his forehead. If not for seeing it with their own eyes, who could believe the scene before their eyes? Chen Xinwen, one of the exalted 9 emperors, was actually insta-killed by Nie Tian in one move. Furthermore, it was even the most primitive killing method, decapitation. Even before dying, he didn't even have the chance to cry out his final tragic cry. Nie Tian's strength was inconceivable. Tiangong looked at the scene before him blankly, his mouth wide open, but he was shocked until he couldn't speak. Mo Qianjun and Zhou Qiansheng were also stunned on the spot, looking at Nie Tian in disbelief. The Nie Tian who fused with the Heart of Void, his strength reached 9th level Heavenly Emperor. But his true combat power reached an outrageous level, absolutely not beneath the Snow Emperor. Insta-killing an Alchemy Emperor in one move, this scene was indeed shocking. Luo Chenhun, do you still doubt my strength now? Nie Tianling smiled coldly, his voice filled with killing intent and ridicule. That sword just now. Nie Tian used the Darkstar Ghost Slaughter. He discovered that after the Starry Origin Stone and the Heart of Void fused into one, the power of the stars seemed to have a qualitative change. The power of the starry sky, ancient martial art, increased more than several times. Just what kind of effect did the Heart of Void bring to the 10th Essence Meridian? Nie Tian secretly said in his heart. But he did not have time to examine his body right now. It was still more important to deal with the matter in front of him. How is this possible? Luo Chenhun finally reacted and opened his mouth in astonishment. His throat involuntarily rolled up and down, his eyes revealing immense terror that was hard to conceal. Nie Tian's strength was too terrifying, far exceeding his imagination. Among the 9 emperors, Chen Xinwen's strength wasn't considered strong. Luo Chenhun believed that his strength was above Chen Xinwen's, but he was only slightly stronger than the latter. If Nie Tian had the strength to insta-kill Chen Xinwen, Then he could also insta-kill Luo Chenhan. Luo Chenhan, do you really want me to do it personally? Nie Tianling asked coldly, the coldness in his eyes intensifying. Long Out Yin was currently fighting with the Snow Empress, and he had no time to waste on Luo Chenhan. Nie Tian, I was wrong back then. I beg you, let me go. Unexpectedly, Luo Chenhan suddenly begged for mercy and walked towards Nie Tian step by step. There was no longer the arrogance on his face, and what was left was a pitiful look. Humph. Nie Tianling laughed twice, and the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. Nie Tian die. At this moment, Luo Chenhan suddenly roared, and a black battle axe appeared behind him. It instantly expanded and was thousands of meters long. It was like a huge black mountain, and it chopped down ferociously. Boom! The heaven and earth shook violently, and a terrifying explosion sounded in the air. The black battle axe flipped, and huge waves surged towards Nie Tian. Nie Tian, be careful. Mo Qianjun and the rest couldn't help but exclaim when they saw this. No one expected the mighty Emperor Chenhan to be so shameless. He pretended to beg for mercy on Nie Tian, and then waited for an opportunity to kill him. How pitiful! However, Nie Tian wasn't flustered at all. His expression darkened, and he roared angrily. Black flames rose from his body, and the absolute heaven slash appeared in his hand. Blood chi surged around his body, and he directly slashed towards Luo Chenhan. Boom! In the void, a huge sword shadow of thousands of meters appeared. Terrible black flames and blood-red sword essence surged on it, and an extremely violent momentum swept across the heaven and earth. Kaboom! High up in the sky, the black battle axe and the black flame sword shadow collided. The void trembled violently, and then there was a crisp sound of an explosion. The black battle axe couldn't withstand the terrible impact of the sword essence, and it directly collapsed. The next moment, a shrill scream was heard. Luo Chenhuan's figure was submerged in the billowing sword essence, and there was nothing left of him. At the moment of his death, his eyes were full of shock and confusion. He had used the giant spiritual body to attack, but he couldn't block Nie Tian's sword. At the same time, Nie Tian's body trembled slightly, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He had used the forbidden move of the AO sword tactics in the previous attack, and it caused him a lot of burden. This extremely tragic scene made Tian Gong and the rest of the people's eyes glaze over, and they looked at Nie Tian in surprise. At this moment, there was an indescribable shock in the hearts of Tian Gong and the others. In just the blink of an eye, Nie Tian had killed 2 great emperors, 1 sword and 1 emperor. Just what kind of terrifying level had his strength reached? Nie Tian stood in the sky, and the corner of his mouth curled into a cold smile, and then he looked at the others. Qian Xinyu was looking at Nie Tian in shock. When he noticed the coldness in Nie Tian's eyes, he couldn't help but tremble inexplicably, and a chill ran down his spine. Chapter 1324. Nie Tian's eyes locked onto Qian Xinyu, and he slashed out with his sword. Qian Xinyu was stunned, and she only reacted when she sensed the enormous sword intent assaulting her. He had been shocked by Nie Tian's terrifying strength just now, and was distracted for a moment. Now that he reacted, he was a little slow. Boom! In a hurry, Qian Xinyu struck out with his palm, and his yuan power surged out. A huge curtain of water appeared in the air, and there was the sound of crashing waves. Too weak. A cold smile appeared at the corner of Nie Tian's mouth as he swung his heaven-severing sword. Dazzling emperor light burst forth from the tip of his sword, which merged with his terrifying sword intent. In the next moment, an enormous sword shadow appeared in the air, and then came crashing down like a moving mountain. Boom! There was a loud crash, and the curtain of water could not withstand the sword shadow at all. It crumbled and dissipated in the sword will. Don't kill me. The mighty sword will whistled over, with the most decisive, murderous intent. Qian Xinyu's eyes trembled when he saw this, and he felt the aura of death. He screamed, his voice sharp and sinister. He had killed countless people in his life, and he did not expect to be so panicked when he was facing death. Boom! But it was too late. The sword's shadow swept over, and wherever the sword will passed, there was blood. Qian Xinyu's figure was drowned in the sword will, and he turned into a bloody light that dissipated. Before he died, Qian Xinyu seemed to be shouting a name. Nie Tian could faintly hear that it was his son, the Thousand Flowing Kill. Perhaps Qian Xinyu wanted to use the Thousand Flowing Kill to threaten Nie Tian, but he did not have the chance. The Thousand Flowing Kill was in the upper region. Even if Qian Xinyu said this name, Nie Tian would not care. Another pinnacle expert, Qian Xinyu was killed by Nie Tian in a second. The shocking scene stunned Tian Gong and the others, and they were petrified on the spot. This was already the third peak expert Nie Tian had killed. Just what kind of frightening level had his strength reached? From Nie Tian's aura, it seemed like even the Snow Empress might not be his match. Nie Tian, you are indeed a formidable opponent. It seems that I have underestimated you. On the other side, Dugani's cold eyes flickered, and he actually revealed a faint smile. He thought to himself, but this is good too. You killed the Snow Empress. In this way, the Heaven Realm's divine realm will be in chaos. Boom! Feeling a chill in his heart, Duguinai stabbed out with a long sword in his hand. An astonishing sword will whizzed out like a black bolt of lightning towards Nie Tian. Duguinai, Nie Tian sensed the sword essence coming at him. He narrowed his eyes, and the black flames around him condensed into a huge black snake. It opened its mouth and swallowed the sword shadow. The devouring power of the heart of nihility was tyrannical to the extreme. It could devour heaven and earth, so a mere strand of sword intent was naturally nothing to it. Nie Tian, goodbye. But at this moment, Dugani's figure had already disappeared. His cold laughter resounded in the air. Duguinai did not intend to kill Nie Tian. He only wanted to escape. Nie Tian frowned slightly, and a murderous look flashed in his eyes. He looked in the direction where Duguinai disappeared, shook his head, and gave up on the chase. With his current strength, it should not be difficult for him to catch up with Duguinai, but it would be a waste of time. It was not worth it for Duguinai. Nie Tian's strength is far more terrifying than the top elites. Tian Gong and the rest looked in the direction where Duguinai disappeared, and their hearts trembled. In the blink of an eye, he killed 3 top elites and scared one away. This kind of strength was extremely abnormal. Snow Empress, it's your turn. Nie Tian's lips curled into a smile. He turned to look at the sky, and a strong murderous intent surged in his eyes. Although he was unconscious just now, he saw the Snow Empress kill Bailey Fengshan with his own eyes. Although Bailey Fengshan and the Snow Empress did not fight for him, they had protected his safety. This kindness, of course, would be repaid by Nie Tian. More importantly, the Snow Empress killed Long Xiao, left a sage's mark on Mo Rushi, and left Qi Wuxiao's fate unknown. He was also the culprit behind Nie Tian's death in his previous life. Any one of these things was enough for Nie Tian to kill the Snow Empress 100 times over. The Snow Empress did all of this for one purpose, and that was to advance to the godly state. Just as he had said, he would do anything to advance to the godly state. At this moment, the battle between the Snow Empress and Long Outyin had reached its climax. The two of them were fighting to the death. Long Outyin, stop. In the sky, the Snow Empress was shrouded by the ice-sealing devilish mark, but her eyes were trembling violently. She shouted, even if you have the body of 9-sealed true dragon, you can't do anything to me. The Snow Empress had seen Nie Tian kill Luo Chenhun and the others with his own eyes. At this moment, he and Long Outyin were in a stalemate. If Nie Tian intervened, the situation would be reversed instantly. Roar! The 9-sealed true dragon roared furiously, and its huge body kept rolling in the air. The 7-colored halo around its body kept changing, and the draconic aura around it became stronger and stronger. The person in front of him had killed his father, so how could Long Outyin let him go? At this moment, the 9-sealed true dragon was covered in blood. Dragon scales kept falling off its huge body. The ice-sealing demonic power in the surrounding space kept surging into its body. Even the body of a nine-seal true dragon could not resist such powerful demonic power. Long Out Yin, don't force me. The Snow Empress furrowed her brow when she saw the nine-seal true dragon pressing towards her. She struck out with her palm, and thousands of golden palm shadows appeared in the void. They covered the entire sky as they struck the dragon's body. Bang, bang, bang. Countless dull sounds could be heard in the air. Countless bloody holes appeared on the dragon's body, and fresh blood rained down like rain. Heaven and earth were filled with the stench of blood, and the air was filled with a foul stench. The nine-seal true dragon was forced to retreat, but its eyes were filled with a determined killing intent. It did not waver at all. Long Out Yin and the Snow Empress would not rest until one of them was dead. The Snow Empress furrowed her brow. She did not expect Long Out Yin's nine-seal true dragon to possess such frightening strength, even though it had just awakened. Even though she had activated her ice-sealing devilish seals, she could not completely destroy it. How could the Snow Empress know that the rainbow illusory seal that Bailey Fengchen had left in Long Out Yin's body had already fused perfectly with the nine-seal true dragon? This greatly stimulated the strength of a true dragon's body, which allowed Long Out Yin to possess strength comparable to a demigod when he had just awakened his true dragon's body. The rainbow illusory seal was Bailey Fengchen's strongest strength. Otherwise, he would not have died so easily at the hands of the Snow Empress. Roar! At this moment, the nine-seal true dragon roared furiously once more. Its huge body flipped and charged towards the Snow Empress. You're courting death. When the Snow Empress saw this, her eyes suddenly became sinister. With a low roar, the ice-sealing devilish imprints around her immediately expanded. At the same time, the great universe development technique in her body circulated wildly, and balls of strange energy were released. Chapter 1325. In the sky, the Snow Empress' face was so gloomy that it was almost dripping blood. He didn't expect Long Out Yin to be so difficult to deal with, forcing him to use a forbidden technique. The Snow Empress had cultivated the great universe development technique for hundreds of years. Right now, he was going to use the forbidden technique, Heaven and Earth Reversal. Once he used this technique, Long Out Yin would either die or be crippled, and the Snow Empress would definitely suffer from the backlash. However, the Snow Empress couldn't care less now. If he waited for Nie Tian to charge over, he would really be in danger if both of them attacked him together. Die! The Snow Empress didn't hesitate anymore as she struck out with her palm. The blood-colored whirlpool in her hand drew a blood-colored arc in the air. At the same time, it fused with a portion of the ice-sealing devilish seal's strength. Not good. At this moment, Nie Tian realized that something was wrong. Meteor wings appeared on his back. Terrifying black flames surged on his starlight wings. His figure was like a bolt of black lightning as he shot out. However, he was still too late. The blood-colored whirlpool began to expand in midair. Instantly, it became 10,000 meters in diameter. It directly engulfed the entire space and engulfed the nine-seal true dragon. Waves of blood-colored forbidden power surged out and entered the nine-seal true dragon's body. Roar! The nine-seal true dragon could sense the ice-cold power approaching it. It couldn't help but roar into the sky. It was extremely tragic. Crack, crack, crack. In the next moment, the blood-colored forbidden power that surged into the nine-seal true dragon's body unleashed a terrifying force. In an instant, the nine-seal true dragon was sealed in ice. At the same time, the Snow Empress' lips curled into a smile as she muttered, Heaven and Earth Reversal. Open. No. Nie Tian could sense that something was wrong. As he exclaimed, the black flames around his body surged over violently. It was like a frightening sea of fire. Bang, bang, bang. However, at this moment, the nine-seal true dragon's body suddenly exploded. Following a series of muffled sounds, countless bloody holes appeared on the dragon's body, and blood poured down like a torrential rain. Nie Tian's eyes flickered violently as he dashed forward. Black flames of nothingness spread out and enveloped the 9 seals' true dragon. Then, with a thought in his mind, he forcibly devoured the blood-colored restrictive power within the dragon's body. The Snow Empress furrowed her brow when she saw this, following which she laughed coldly and said, "You have to pay the price if you want to save them." After she finished speaking, the Snow Empress didn't hesitate at all. She struck out with her palm, and countless golden palm shadows blasted towards Nyetian. However, Nyetian was completely focused on Long Outyin. He didn't care about the Snow Empress attack at all, and allowed the golden palm shadows to land on his body. Bang, bang, bang. Countless muffled sounds were heard. Nyetian's body trembled violently, and his whole body was instantly covered with blood. However, he was like a rock in a storm and didn't move an inch. No matter what, he had to save Long Outyin. Courting death. The Snow Empress' eyes narrowed when she saw that Nyetian didn't care about her attack at all. Her killing intent was revealed as she punched out. The golden fist shadows fused with the power of the ice-sealing devilish mark, and immediately swept up the dark clouds in all directions as she struck towards Nyetian. Not only did the Snow Empress use the right hand of the god, but she also fused it with the power of the devilish mark. If Nyetian was hit head-on, he would be severely injured even if he didn't die. "Watch out!" Tian Gong and the rest couldn't help but exclaim when they saw this scene from afar. However, Nyetian didn't care. He was completely focused on Long Outyin. Boom! Instantly, Nyetian felt that the blood-colored forbidden power in the 9-sealed true dragon's body had been completely devoured. His frown relaxed a little. However, the golden fist shadows were already charging towards him at this moment. Earth Pole, mysterious heavenly armor, activate. In his haste, Nyetian didn't have time to use the Heavenly Star Guardian. He could only forcefully activate the mysterious heavenly armor. Bam! A muffled sound rang out, and Nyetian's body was sent flying. He drew a line of blood in the air. Nyetian, Tian Gong, and the rest were stunned by this bloody scene, and they exclaimed in shock. However, a pair of starlight wings appeared on the back of the blood-colored figure in the void at this moment. The wings flapped, and he stood steadily in the air. He's not dead. The Snow Empress' eyes trembled when she saw this scene. She revealed an unconcealable fear. The punch that she had just unleashed was her strongest attack. Nyetian had hastily defended himself, but he didn't die. He didn't even seem to be seriously injured. "Snow Empress, is this your right hand of the god?" Nyetian stabilized himself and shuddered slightly. The blood and dirt around his body surged. Although his face was a little pale, his entire being was sharp and murderous. He said coldly, "Is this all you've got?" As he finished speaking, Nyetian reached out and pulled Long Outyin over. Long Outyin had returned to his human form, but his entire body was a mess of blood and flesh. He was unconscious. Even though he had awakened the 9-seals true dragon, he was still a little inferior to the Snow Empress. "Brother Mo, help me take care of Outyin." Nyetian could sense that Long Outyin's breathing was stable and that he wasn't in any danger. He extended his palm and sent Long Outyin in front of Mo Qianjun. It had been too dangerous just now. If Nyetian had been a little slower, Long Outyin would have died. Fortunately, Nyetian had the heart of nothingness, which allowed him to devour the 9-seals true dragon's blood-colored forbidden power. Otherwise, Long Outyin wouldn't have survived. The heart of nothingness was too frightening. It could devour almost any power. "Nyetian, The Snow Empress stared at Nyetian from afar. Her eyes flickered intensely, and her expression was one of extreme shock. She couldn't imagine how Nyetian could be so powerful. The most frightening thing was that Nyetian's martial body was too freakish. He seemed unaffected by the Snow Empress' right hand of God's attack. Nyetian had fused with the heart of nothingness. Not only had his 10th origin meridian changed, but his 9 dragon veins had also been strengthened. His martial body was unimaginably strong. Snow Empress, it's time to end things between you and me. Nyetian's figure flickered, and he rose into the sky to face the Snow Empress. He spoke cold. The Snow Empress could sense Tion's murderous intent. Her eyes trembled, and her face was filled with shock. She knew that she wasn't Tion's match. Furthermore, she had expended too much of her origin power. If she were to fight Tion now, she would most likely die here. On the other hand, Tion had expended a lot of his origin power. However, he could continuously absorb the power of others to replenish his depleted origin power. Under such circumstances, it was clearly not a wise move to fight Tion to the death. Thinking of this, the Snow Empress narrowed her eyes. Frightening power rose from her body. The eye-sealing demonic seal around her instantly swelled, and waves of frightening power spread in the air. "Let's fight." Tion's eyes flickered, and a crazy desire to fight surged in his eyes. He had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Tion's body trembled, and dragon aura emanated from his body. The purple-gold dragon aura surged out like a vast ocean, and the figure of a 3,000-meter scarlet-gold dragon appeared. The huge dragon's body tumbled in the air, and the majestic dragon aura immediately spread in the air, causing heaven and earth to tremble. Chapter 13:26. When the Snow Empress saw the giant scarlet golden dragon behind Tion, she could not help but shudder. Her eyes flickered with fear. She did not expect the power of the dragon vein in Tion's body to be no weaker than Long Outyen's 9 Seals True Dragon. "Tion, it seems like I have underestimated you." The Snow Empress regained her composure immediately. She smiled coldly and said, "I want to see how strong your dragon vein is. It's enough to kill you." Tion's face darkened, but there was a complicated look in her eyes. "Arrogant," the Snow Empress roared. The eye-sealing demonic seals around her suddenly expanded and pressed down. A huge icicle appeared in the void. It was like an iceberg, and it roared and roared. Hum. The space let out a low hum, as if it was groaning. "Die." Tion's eyes flickered. He leaped up and charged forward on the giant scarlet golden dragon. These two are so scary. Tion Gong and the rest trembled uncontrollably as they watched the scene in the sky. Tion and the Snow Empress were far more powerful than ordinary peak experts. A head-on clash between the two of them would definitely be earth-shattering. Boom! Boom! Loud booms could be heard continuously in the sky. The giant scarlet golden dragon and the enormous icicle approached each other rapidly. Kaboom! Finally, the two gigantic existences collided with each other, causing an earth-shattering explosion to ring out in the air. After that, a boundless amount of energy was unleashed as terrifying shockwaves engulfed the heavens and earth. The draconic chi and the devil seal devoured each other, clashing against each other, penetrating into each other. Boom! Billowing waves of air spread out in all directions. Under the tremendous pressure, the void was instantly pulled taut as if it was about to collapse. The Purgatory Mountain was struck by the violent airwaves. The trees and rocks were all shattered. The huge mountain began to collapse. It was like the end of the world. Tion and the Snow Empress were too powerful. The destructive power of their head-on clash was enough to destroy the entire Purgatory Mountain. Chi, chi, chi. An ear-piercing sound came from the void, and the terrifying forces were still colliding with each other. The figures of the two could no longer be seen high up in the sky, only terrifying waves of chi continuously surging out. After a while, the two figures finally appeared again. Tion stood tall, his silver hair fluttering in the wind. He stood there like a mountain or an ocean. On the other hand, the Snow Empress was in a sorry state. She was drenched in blood, and her face was as pale as a sheet. Her body was trembling, and she seemed like she was about to collapse. There was no doubt that Tion had the upper hand in the head-on confrontation between the two of them. Tion, you are indeed strong enough. No wonder you possess the god-fiend origin embryo. The Snow Empress stabilized herself, and a cold smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. There wasn't much fear in her eyes. Tion lowered his head to look at Purgatory Mountain, his brows unable to help but furrow. Nietian, let me leave. The Snow Empress suddenly spoke, and her eyes flickered with a crafty look. Do you think that's possible? Nie Tianling laughed coldly, and his eyes were filled with disdain and killing intent. The Snow Empress was already severely injured, and it was the best time to kill her. How could Nietian let her go? Of course it's possible. The Snow Empress laughed. After that, she glanced at Mo, Qianjun, and the others in the distance, and said, "Let me leave if you don't want them to die." Nietian's eyes narrowed slightly, and he seemed to have guessed something. The Snow Empress chuckled and said, "Nietian, you know that I haven't unleashed my true strength. If you want to turn this place into the demonic devouring abyss, I'll fight with you." "You're threatening me." Nietian's face darkened, and his eyes flickered. Of course he understood what the Snow Empress meant, and he had to consider it carefully. If the Snow Empress completely unleashed the strength of the ice-sealing demonic seal, Purgatory Mountain would become the second demonic devouring abyss. In the past, Chiwuxia Ocean unleashed the strength of the demonic devouring seal and created the demonic devouring abyss. The demonic devouring seal was ranked 10th among the 10 most powerful seals, while the ice-sealing demonic seal was ranked 7th. Its strength was definitely above the demonic devouring seal. The Snow Emperor's current strength was also above Chi Wuxia Ocean's. If he completely unleashed the strength of the ice-sealing demonic seal, the space within thousands of miles of Purgatory Mountain would completely collapse, and this place would become the second demonic devouring abyss. Nietian was confident that he could survive under the ice-sealing demonic seal. But Mo Qianjun and the others would definitely not survive. The Snow Empress was using the lives of Mo Qianjun and the others to threaten Nietian. "I'm threatening you." The Snow Empress laughed coldly and said, "For someone like you who values friendship and loyalty, I'm sure you don't want to see your friends die together with me." If he completely unleashed the strength of the ice-sealing demonic seal, it would be difficult for the Snow Empress to survive, but Mo Qianjun and the others would die together with him. "Shualing Tian, are you that confident?" Nie Tianling laughed coldly, but in his heart, he was thinking about how to protect Mo Qianjun and the others. He was a little regretful that he did not ask the others to hide in the 3-life stone. It was too late to do that now. Humph. At this moment, the Snow Empress suddenly laughed coldly and said, "Nietian, there's one more thing I haven't told you. Your uncle is not dead yet. If you still want to see him again, let me leave." "Demon King." Nietian's eyes darkened when he heard the Snow Empress words, and his body began to tremble uncontrollably. He did not know if the Snow Empress was speaking the truth, but he could not take the risk. "Nietian, I'll give you a chance. We'll meet in 3 days at the demonic devouring abyss. I'll prepare a huge surprise for you then. How about it?" The Snow Empress laughed coldly when she saw Nietian's reaction. Nietian's eyes flashed as he locked his cold gaze on the Snow Empress. "All right." After a brief moment, Nietian nodded and said, "Snow Empress, everything between us will come to an end in 3 days." Nietian wanted to kill the Snow Empress very much, but he could not risk the lives of Mo Qianjun and the others. Furthermore, Chiwuxia Ocean was still in the Snow Empress' hands, so he could only let the Snow Empress go. "Oomph. Nietian, we'll meet in 3 days." The Snow Empress laughed coldly. Her figure flickered as she stepped into the air and disappeared like a stream of light. Nietian looked in the direction that the Snow Empress had left, and his gaze became more and more complicated. At some point, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly, and he murmured, "Uncle." After a brief moment, Nietian became cold and appeared beside Mo, Qianjun, and the others. After making sure that everyone was fine, he did not stay any longer and led everyone to the divine cold hall. And not long after Nietian and the others left, the void trembled slightly, and a vague figure appeared. It was a familiar face, the Scarlet Flame Devil King, the demonic Lumen. "Although I came a little late, I still obtained important information. I'll go back and report to Emperor Yi first." The demonic Lumen murmured, and with a smile, his figure disappeared into the void. After a brief moment, the demonic lumen's figure appeared in a secret valley in the divine realm of the heaven realm. Emperor Yi, I have something to report. The demonic lumen looked at the cliffs of the valley and shouted. As his voice faded, the cliffs of the valley shook slightly, and a ray of light emerged. Within it stood an illusory figure. It was a white-haired old man. If Tian was here and saw this white-haired old man, he would definitely be shocked on the spot. Chapter 13:27. Heaven Realm's Divine Realm. Inside the mysterious valley, an illusory figure appeared in front of the Lumen Fiend. It was not a corporeal body. Clearly, it was not the original body, but a soul clone. This soul clone had a very powerful aura. Standing in the valley, the aura around it spread out, like a king, ruling over a stretch of heaven and earth. If Tian was here, he would be able to recognize at a glance that the old man in front of him was the person who accompanied him when he was young, the person who called him Young Lord, Lord Emperor Yi. When the Lumen Fiend saw the illusory figure appear, he immediately bowed and did not even dare to raise his head, being respectful. Lumen Fiend, speak, Emperor Yi said coldly. Although the aura around him was restrained, it still gave people a powerful pressure. Lord Emperor Yi, this subordinate has some information about Lord Nyatan, the Lumen Fiend said respectfully, appearing extremely cautious. Young Lord, when Emperor Yi heard the Lumen Fiend mention Nyatan this name, he could not help but frown. Then he laughed and said, Young Lord has returned to the Heaven Realm's divine realm for some time. His current strength is already around the 7th level Heavenly Emperor, right? His gentle laughter was filled with undisguised love. Emperor Yi once stayed by Nyatian's side for 5 years, accompanying him through his childhood. It was just that some things happened later that made him have no choice but to leave. Between him and Nyatian, although they were master and servant, there was a grandfather-grandson relationship. Lord Emperor Yi, the Lumen Fiend finally raised his head, looked at Emperor Yi respectfully, and said, Lord Nyatian's current strength has already reached the 9th level Heavenly Emperor. 9th level Heavenly Emperor. Emperor Yi was slightly taken aback, clearly quite surprised. He said in a trembling voice, Young Lord only returned to the Heaven Realm's divine realm for about a year, and actually reached the 9th level Heavenly Emperor from the 1st level Heavenly Emperor. Looks like his talent became even stronger after reincarnating. Looking at it this way, this seat's failure to stop Luo Chenhun and the rest back then might not be a bad thing. Back then, when Yetian was harmed by Luo Chenhun, Emperor Yi was not in the Heaven Realm's divine realm. When he returned, he learned that Niet Tian already perished. However, his identity could not be exposed, so he did not seek revenge on Luo Chenhun and the others. Most importantly, Ren Wangyi knew that Niet Tian did not die and would definitely reincarnate. However, he did not expect that Niet Tian would reincarnate so quickly. It only took him 100 years to return to the heavenly realm. Thinking of this, the corners of Emperor Ye's mouth couldn't help but curl up. He looked up to the sky and laughed, saying loudly, Master, your son has already grown up. It won't be long before you can see the light of day again. Sovereign Yi did not expect that Nyatian would grow so quickly. He merely used a year's time and advanced from 1st level Heavenly Emperor to 9th level Heavenly Emperor. This kind of speed was seriously perverse. Young Master's talent far surpasses ordinary people. Even the geniuses of those realms can't compare to you. It won't be long before Young Master can enter the Realmverse. That will be the time when the Realmverse changes. Emperor Yi was extremely excited as he spoke with a trembling voice. Lord Emperor Yi. But at this time, the Wayfarer interrupted Emperor Yi. His expression was rather ugly as he said, This subordinate feels that the current young master might be in some trouble. I'm afraid that Lord Emperor Yi needs to personally make an appearance. Amen? Emperor Ye's gaze turned intense slightly, and he said in a cold voice, What happened to young master? In his view, with Nyatian's talent, the Snow Emperor and the rest were unable to kill him. Lord Emperor Yi. The Wayfarer's expression was solemn, his voice quivering slightly as he said, "Young master killed great Emperor Danite and the alchemy emperor of the 9 emperors." "What?" When Emperor Yi heard what the wayfarer said, he suddenly gave a low roar, simply unable to believe his ears, and actually directly froze on the spot. After some time, Emperor Yi finally had a reaction. Cold, he looked at the wayfarer and said solemnly, "Wayfarer, explain the matter clearly." "Yes." The wayfarer nodded his head heavily and recounted everything that he saw. One had to admit that the wayfarer arrived just in time to see the scene of Niet Tian instantly killing the alchemy emperor and great Emperor Danite. Of course, he also saw the great battle between Niet Tian and the Snow Emperor. After hearing what the wayfarer said, Emperor Ye's entire person froze again. He said in a daze, "How is that possible? Great Emperor Danite and the Alchemy Emperor were both peak existences of the Heaven Realm's divine realm. Niet Tian had just advanced to the 9th level Heavenly Emperor. How could he possibly instantly kill the two of them?" Lord Emperor Yi, this subordinate, seems to have heard others say that Lord Niet Tian merged with the demonic fire. "It seems to be called the Heart of Nothingness," the wayfarer said coolly. He heard the conversation of heavenly workers and the rest, and vaguely heard the Heart of Nothingness. But he did not know what the Heart of Nothingness was. Heart of Nothingness. Emperor Yi froze again, his expression clearly stiff. He did not have any reaction for a long time. He never would have thought that Niet Tian actually merged with the Heart of Nothingness. That was the legendary supreme demonic fire. Forget about Heavenly Emperor realm martial artists. Even deity realm martial artists did not dare to merge with the Heart of Nothingness. God Fiend Origin Embryo. It must be the God Fiend Origin Embryo. After a long time, Emperor Yi had a reaction. He murmured softly, "If young master can merge with the Heart of Nothingness, it must be because of the God Fiend Origin Embryo in his body." But in the next instant, Emperor Ye's brows furrowed abruptly. His expression turned ugly, and the look in his eyes became more and more complicated. "Lord Emperor Yi, Lord Niet Tian killed the 9 emperors. I'm afraid this matter will be very troublesome." The wayfarer sighed and said, "The 9 emperors are people appointed by the adjudicators to govern the Heaven Realm's divine realm. Now that 2 of them died in Lord Niet Tian's hands, the adjudicators will definitely not take this lying down." The adjudicators. Emperor Ye's brows also furrowed tightly. His expression clearly became much more solemn. He said, "None of those fellows are easy to deal with. If they know young master's identity, it will be troublesome. If Niet Tian only killed the 9 emperors, it would not be much. But once his identity was exposed, it would really be a big matter. It seems that I will have to personally make an appearance." Emperor Yi frowned and sighed deeply. The wayfarer looked at Emperor Yi and said, "Lord Emperor Yi, Shui Lingtian and Lord Niet Tian have agreed to fight in the demonic devouring abyss in 3 days. 3 days should be enough." Emperor Yi nodded slightly. He then stretched out his palm and threw out a token. He said, "The wayfarer, go to the demonic devouring abyss now. If I can't make it in time, take out this token. It should be able to buy you some time." "Yes." The wayfarer took the token and replied. He bowed and left. Seeing the wayfarer's figure disappear, Emperor Yi sighed and said, "If the adjudicators appear, things will become very troublesome." Then, Emperor Ye's figure disappeared into the cliff of the valley. Everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. The one who appeared in front of the wayfarer was only Emperor Ye's soul clone. His real body was not in the Heaven Realm's divine realm. It was unknown whether Emperor Yi could make it to the Heaven Realm's divine realm in 3 days. Niet Tian had killed the 9 emperors. The Snow Empress would definitely use this matter to make a fuss. She might even push the death of the Illusion Emperor onto Niet Tian. This matter would definitely alarm the adjudicators. 3 days later, the adjudicators would most likely appear in the demonic devouring abyss. At that time, if Emperor Yi could not make it in time, Niet Tian would be in danger. Chapter 1328. In the divine cold hall of the Heaven Realm, Niet Tian and the rest sat in the hall. The atmosphere was a little tense. Tian had already checked the injuries of Mo Qianjun and the rest. Ghost Scar and Mo Qianjun were not seriously injured, and they would recover very quickly. However, Jiu Qiansheng and Long Outyin were seriously injured, especially Jiu Qiansheng. His martial foundation had been damaged by Dugu Ni. His Yuan meridians were severely damaged, and he was almost crippled. Long Outyin had the 9-seal true dragon body, and his martial body was unusually strong during his fight with the Snow Empress. He would recover after a few months of rest. Tian, don't worry. I'm fine. Jiu Qiansheng took the initiative to speak at this moment. He laughed heartily and said, "It's just that your martial foundation has been damaged. You can just be an ordinary person in the future. It's no big deal." Brother Jiu, Tian felt even more guilty after hearing Jiu Qiansheng's words. Jiu Qiansheng was a hot-tempered person. It was hard for anyone to accept falling from his peak to a cripple. He said this so that Tian would not be so sad. "Brother Jiu, don't worry. I will help you recover your strength, and I will help you advance to the godly state." Tian looked at Jiu Qiansheng with a determined look in his eyes. Jiu Qiansheng was injured while protecting him. Tian would not let him die like that. Perhaps when Cher wakes up, her blood will be able to heal Jiu Qiansheng. If that didn't work, Tian would think of something else. "Brother, I will go to the demonic devouring abyss with you in 3 days." Long Outyin's voice was heard. He had not recovered from his injuries, and he spat out a mouthful of blood when he spoke loudly. Tian shook his head and said, "Outyin, the trip to the demonic devouring abyss in 3 days is to end things between me and Shueling Tian. None of you should go." Long Outyin and the rest were already injured. If they went with him, they might become a burden. Furthermore, Tian couldn't guarantee that the Snow Empress wouldn't use the ice-sealing fiendish seal again when they fought. Lord Ao Jian. Long Outyin still wanted to insist, but before he could speak, Frost Emperor suddenly looked at Tian and said, "If I told you not to go to the demonic devouring abyss, would you agree?" "What do you mean?" Tian was slightly taken aback. He had long noticed that Mao Xianglong's expression had been very ugly ever since he knew that he had killed Daynite Emperor and the others. It was obvious that he was worried about something. "Lord Frosty the Arch, if you have anything to say, feel free to speak your mind," Tian said without hesitation. Lord Ao Jian. Mao Xianglong's face was filled with hesitation, and his expression became even uglier. There were some things that she knew, but she couldn't say it out loud. "Xianglong, is there anything you can't say at this time?" Chengju couldn't help but ask when she saw Mao Xianglong's troubled expression. "Chengju," Tian frowned and said, "Emperor Han has her own difficulties. Don't force her." Sigh. Mao Xianglong let out a long sigh, and the hesitation in his eyes gradually dissipated. He said in a deep voice, "Lord Ao Jian, at this moment, there are some things that I will no longer hide. You have actually caused a great disaster by killing Daynite Emperor and Alchemy Emperor." "What do you mean?" Tian was stunned again, and his eyes flickered. Mao Xianglong sighed again and said, "You already know that the 9 emperors are appointed by the upper domains to rule the heaven realm. This means that no matter what the 9 emperors do, the people of the heaven realm can't kill them. Only the people of the upper domains can decide everything." Tian's eyes narrowed slightly, and he suddenly understood. According to Mao Xianglong, he was not qualified to kill Daynite Emperor and Alchemy Emperor. If the 9 emperors did something wrong, only the people of the upper domains could deal with it. Even the Snow Emperor couldn't do anything. What kind of nonsense is this? Tian's eyes darkened, and he said in a cold voice, "If I fight with the 9 emperors, can I only let him kill me? And I can't kill him?" The others also had a gloomy face. They didn't expect the 9 emperors to have such a taboo identity. The Frost Empress was silent. This was the rule set by the adjudicator, and she could only abide by it. She had no right to question or change it. This was how the world was. The strong set the rules, and the weak follow them. "Lord Frost Empress, if I kill the 9 emperors now, what will the people of the upper domains do?" Tian became cold and asked. They will come to the heaven realm and kill you. Mao Xianglong nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, those who did not abide by the rules, of course, had to be eliminated, and there would be no mercy. Even if Nie Tian's talent was heaven-defying, he couldn't break the rules at will. Nie Tian let out a cold laugh and said with a helpless expression, so you don't want me to go to the demonic devouring abyss, do you? People from the upper realms will show up in the demonic devouring abyss. Yes. Mao Xianglong nodded slightly and said, the people of the upper domains are real godly state martial artists. Even an expert like the Snow Empress can't fight against them. If you go to the demonic devouring abyss, it will be hard for you to come back. Real godly state martial artists. Hearing the Frost Empress words, everyone was stunned, and their eyes couldn't help but tremble. Godly state martial artists had always only existed in legends, and now they were so close to them. I will definitely go to the demonic devouring abyss. I want to see how terrifying a real godly state martial artist is. Suddenly, Nie Tian stood up, and a cold look flashed in his eyes. Even if he knew that he couldn't fight against a godly state martial artist, he still had to go to the demonic devouring abyss. Not only to kill the Snow Empress, but also to save Qi Wuxi Ocean. Lord Ao Jian. Mao Xianglong could feel the determination in Nie Tian's eyes, and he knew that he couldn't stop the latter. He shouted, but he couldn't say anything else. There are 3 days left I need to cultivate in seclusion. Nie Tian's face was as deep as water, and he said lightly, then left the hall. Watching him leave, everyone's eyes couldn't help but tremble, and their faces were extremely shocked. When they heard the 2 words, godly state, their eyes were filled with shock. However, Nie Tian still didn't change his decision and insisted on going to the demonic devouring abyss. This courage alone was worthy of respect. At this time, Tian Gong suddenly laughed and said, everyone Nie Tian can merge with the heart of nothingness, and his strength might improve again in these 3 days. Even if he meets a legendary godly state martial artist, he might still have a chance. Well, everyone took a deep breath. Their expressions were clearly asking Tian Gong, where did you get your confidence from? Perhaps the others didn't know how terrifying the heart of nothingness was. But as a top blacksmith, how could Tian Gong not know how terrifying the heart of nothingness was? Once the supreme demonic fire that contained the power to destroy the world was released, even a godly state martial artist might not be able to withstand it. The fact that Nie Tian could merge with the heart of nothingness was enough to show that his martial body was different from ordinary people. If he met a godly state martial artist, he might have a chance to fight. After leaving the hall, Nie Tian immediately returned to his residence, and after informing Imorushi, he returned to his room. He wanted to examine his body properly and see what kind of changes the heart of nothingness had brought to him. Nie Tian sat cross-legged, concentrated his divine sense, and began to examine the Yuan meridian in his body. Nie Tian boy. However, at this time, in his sea of divine sense, a familiar voice suddenly sounded with great excitement. Di Shi Tian. Hearing this voice, Nie Tian was stunned, and his expression froze. He wasn't in the 3 live stone. Why could he hear Di Shi Tian's voice? Chapter 1329. In the room, when Nie Tian was checking his body, Di Shi Tian's voice suddenly sounded in his mind, causing him to freeze. Didn't Di Shi Tian only appear when he entered the 3 life stone? Why did he suddenly make a sound? Could it be that the God-fiend origin embryo has awakened? This was Nie Tian's first reaction, causing him to be stunned for a moment. The God-fiend origin embryo was the first taboo in the ancient times. If it was awakened, it was impossible for him to not feel anything. At this time, Nie Tian still couldn't feel the existence of the God-fiend origin embryo. He also didn't know what kind of suppressive force his parents left on his body was. It actually made the God-fiend origin embryo invisible. Even he himself couldn't feel it. Nie Tian boy, don't look anymore. Your God-fiend origin embryo hasn't awakened yet, but some strange changes have happened. Di Shi Tian's voice sounded again, with some excitement, as if he was very happy. Strange changes. Tian was stunned. He didn't know what Tian meant. Tian, I didn't expect that you actually have a space-time origin fragment. It seems that I really underestimated you. Tian said faintly. His figure actually appeared in Tian's sea of consciousness. It was very clear. Just like the previous Sword Elder, he seemed to be living in Tian's sea of consciousness. Tian frowned tightly. He didn't know what was going on. However, when Tian mentioned the space-time origin fragment, he had a guess. It must be that space-time crystal. The strange thing was that after the space-time crystal absorbed the fifth devil fire, space-time doomsday, it mysteriously disappeared without a trace. Could it be? At this time, Tian suddenly thought of something. His face changed, and he said in a daze, the space-time crystal entered the god-fiend origin embryo? That's right. Sakura's voice sounded and he laughed. Kid, you're really lucky. After the space-time origin fragment absorbed the space-time doomsday, it actually fused with the fiend god nascent embryo. Now, your fiend god nascent embryo has yet to awaken, but the space inside the nascent embryo is surprisingly big. What's even stranger is that the space-time apocalypse created a space-time gate between the origin embryo space and your sea of consciousness. That's why I can appear in your sea of consciousness. Listening to Tian's words, Tian was stunned and couldn't say a word for a long time. What Sakura said, he only understood half of it and didn't fully comprehend it. He didn't even know that the god-fiend nascent embryo had its own space. It seemed that the origin fetus space and the space-time crystal chip had fused together, and the space-time apocalypse had become a space-time gate between the origin fetus space and the sea of spiritual sense. Space-time doomsday and the fifth devil fire had actually turned the space-time chip into a space-time gate. This was too terrifying. It seemed that what Sakura said was true. That space-time chip was a fragment of the space-time origin. Regarding the two words origin, Tian also knew very little. He had only heard that the world of martial arts was born from the origin. Moreover, the origin wasn't just one, it was divided into many kinds, such as the space-time origin, the five elements origin, the four elements origin, the power origin, and so on. Tian was also very surprised. He had picked up a space-time chip in the ice and fire world, and it turned out to be a fragment of the legendary space-time origin. Since the space-time apocalypse has already become a space-time gate between the origin embryo space and the sea of spiritual sense, can my divine sense enter the origin embryo space? Tian suddenly thought of this and couldn't help but ask. He was very curious about what the inside of the legendary god-fiend nascent embryo was like. You can't. Sakura laughed mischievously and said, the god-fiend nascent embryo suppression hasn't changed. If you want to enter the origin embryo space, then you must be prepared to have your divine sense suppressed to the point of collapse. Tian's face was filled with black lines. It seemed that the suppression inside the god-fiend nascent embryo was more terrifying than he had imagined. Next, Tian asked Sakura some questions, and then his divine sense entered the Xing River domain. The most important thing for him at this time was to improve his strength. In the demonic devouring abyss, it was very likely that he would encounter the legendary God Realm martial artists, which would be a huge challenge. Although Tian had encountered many enemies that were far stronger than him before, the strength of those people was within the scope of his understanding. However, the God Realm was a realm that exceeded Tian's understanding. It was a realm that he had never come into contact with. He didn't even know how the God Realm martial artists fought. Perhaps they could directly mobilize the laws of heaven and earth, the momentum of heaven and earth, and instantly kill the opponent. If this was really the case, the trip to the demonic devouring abyss was indeed very dangerous. The Xing River domain has completely changed. Once again entering the domain space, Tian saw the scene in front of him, and his whole person couldn't help but be stunned. At this moment, the Xing River domain had completely changed. The nine-layered star river, the domain origin array, the raw star stone, these things were still there, but the surface of all of them was surging with a layer of black flame, surging endlessly like a layer of black flame curtain covering the entire Xing River domain. The power of the heart of nothingness is really too terrifying. Nietan murmured to himself. His heart was shocked. The heart of nothingness was worthy of being one of the supreme demonic fires. The fusion with the raw star stone had completely changed the Xing River domain. Nietan could feel that the heart of nothingness had made a qualitative leap in the power of the stars. The devouring power contained in the power of the stars had almost become violent, able to devour everything. Nietan. At this moment, Sakura's figure suddenly appeared, and actually came directly to the Xing River domain. Nietan was stunned. He didn't expect Sakura to appear. Sakura looked at everything in front of him. His whole person was sluggish, and he didn't react for a long time. After a long time, he finally reacted. His face was still shocked, and he said in his heart, Nietan, it seems that I really wanted to occupy your body, but I really chose the wrong person. Even if you don't have the fiend god original embryo, I'm afraid you can still devour me. The raw star stone, this is the creation of the world. Sakura didn't say the following words. That was the secret of heaven. It couldn't be said. Sakura, what are you thinking about? Nietan frowned and said, do you know what the raw star stone is? Previously, the heart of nothingness refused to say the nature of the raw star stone. But at this moment, Sakura's expression was strange, and it seemed that he also understood the raw star stone very well. I can't say, Sakura said in a deep voice, but then he sighed helplessly and said, Nietan, now that the heart of nothingness and the raw star stone have merged together, it has greatly stimulated the power of the stars. But the power of destruction of the heart of nothingness is still there. If the time is long, I'm afraid it may devour your power. Nietan's eyes slightly narrowed, and he asked, even the raw star stone can't suppress the devouring power of the heart of nothingness. He originally thought that the heart of nothingness had been completely suppressed by the raw star stone. He didn't expect that the power of destruction of the heart of nothingness was still there. The power of the raw star stone is very strong. The power you can exert now is not even a fraction of its true power. Sakura's face became serious, and he said, unfortunately, the speed of your awakening of the power of the stars is too slow. If the time is long, the raw star stone will not be able to suppress the heart of nothingness. Chapter 1330. Nietan already knew that the primal star stone had a strong suppressive force on the heart of nothingness. However, his speed of awakening the power of the heart of nothingness was too slow, and the destructive power of the heart of nothingness was getting stronger and stronger. If the time dragged on, the primal star stone would not be able to suppress the heart of nothingness. At that time, his power would be counterattacked by the heart of nothingness. The heart of nothingness is the supreme, demonic fire born at the beginning of the world. How can it be so easy to suppress? Indra sighed, with a playful look on his face. How much time do I have left? Nietan became cold and asked solemnly. Indra raised his eyebrows and said, at least 1 year, at most 3 years, the destructive power of the heart of nothingness will completely erupt. Unless you can reach the peak of the God realm within a year, you won't be able to awaken enough power of the stars to suppress the heart of nothingness. Is it difficult to reach the peak of the God realm within a year? Nietan was stunned and then asked, is it difficult? Hearing Nietan's tone, Indra laughed instead and glanced at Nietan. He said, it's not difficult, it's impossible. For a God realm warrior to reach the peak of the God realm, it would take him tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years. Even those true geniuses, even those supreme monstrous geniuses born with divine spark, would need at least a few thousand years to reach the peak of the God realm. Even if Nietan had the fiend god origin embryo and the primal star stone, it was absolutely impossible for him to reach the peak of the God realm within a year. Indra just wanted to say that this joke was not funny at all. Why? Nietan was stunned and couldn't help but look at Indra. Indra shook his head slightly and said, There are some things that you won't understand if you haven't reached a certain realm. And yet Tion smiled speechlessly and had to ask, then how can I suppress the counterattack of the heart of nothingness? I have a very simple way. Indra laughed and had a strange look on his face. What way? And yet Tion's eyes flickered, fused with another demonic flame. Sakura raised his eyebrows and smiled. The heart of nothingness was born in the nothingness at the beginning of the world's creation, and it contains the power to destroy the world. There's also the demonic fire, which was also born at the beginning of creation, but it contains the power of creation. The first demonic flame, the edge of the universe. Without waiting for Sure Tion to finish speaking, and yet Tion's expression changed as he spoke in astonishment. Yes. Sakura nodded slightly and smiled. Little guy, I didn't expect you to know so many things. The boundary of the universe and the heart of nothingness are known as the supreme twin flames. The former represents creation, while the latter represents destruction. As long as you can merge with the boundary of the universe, the devouring power of the heart of nothingness will naturally disappear. Creation and destruction are sisters who reinforce and restrain each other. You've only fused with the power of destruction. Even with your god-fiend nascent embryo body, you won't be able to withstand this power. Only by fusing with the power of creation again can you restore your martial body to a balanced state. Blindly relying on the suppressive power of the raw star stone to resist the heart of nothingness will only make the heart of nothingness more violent. The boundary of the universe. And yet Tion's eyes narrowed, but his face couldn't help but become worried. Sakura's words were simple, but this matter was very difficult. Being able to merge with the heart of nothingness was already a stroke of luck. Wanting to merge with the boundary of the universe was really wishful thinking. And yet Tion hadn't even seen the shadow of the boundary of the universe. Little guy, don't think too much now. It's useless to think too much. At this time, Sakura laughed. Then, he thought of something and reminded him, I want to tell you that you'd better not use the power of the heart of nothingness. Because the more you use it, the more power the heart of nothingness will absorb, and the stronger the power of destruction will be. After saying that, Sakura laughed. His figure flickered, and he directly disappeared. He couldn't leave the space of the nascent embryo for too long. His remnant soul was still imprisoned in the space of the nascent embryo. And yet Tion was stunned on the spot, and his face was extremely ugly. I underestimated the heart of nothingness. Looks like I have to use this power less in the future. After a while, Niet Tion became cold and shook his head with a sigh. With a bitter smile, Niet Tion completely calmed down. The power of destruction of the heart of nothingness still needed some time to take effect. The demonic devouring abyss pact was the main point now. My strength has already reached the 9th level of the Heavenly Emperor. The Starry Sky ancient martial technique should be able to open all of it. Niet Tion muttered with a smile and came to the 4th galaxy. Above the 4th galaxy, the Starry Sky ancient martial technique lay there, but outside it was surging, terrifying black flames of nothingness. Starry Sky ancient martial technique, open it. Niet Tion didn't think too much. With a thought, the Starry Sky ancient martial technique slowly opened. Starry Sky ancient martial technique, heaven and earth craftiness Tao. Earth craftiness reverse kill, heaven's craftiness absolute kill. In the next moment, a mighty voice resounded in the boundary space. The Starry Sky ancient martial technique surged out endless starlight runes, surging above the galaxy, shining brightly. Heaven and earth crafty Tao. Yet Tion frowned slightly and immediately understood. The 8th and 9th forms of the Starry Sky ancient martial technique were combined forms, known as the Heaven and Earth Crafty Tao. With a thought from Tion, the starlight runes immediately surged towards him and surrounded his body. They actually slowly condensed into 2 giant black snakes. Tion sensed the aura of the stars within the 2 black snakes and was extremely shocked. The 2 black snakes had different auras. One was the aura of the 5 elements of the earth, while the other was the aura of the 4 elements of the sky. The The power of the stars was indeed terrifying. It actually condensed into such a strange giant snake. The aura of the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth surging in the strange earth snake's body should be able to absorb the power of the 5 elements. The aura of the 4 elements of wind, thunder, light, and darkness surging in the strange earth snake's body should be able to absorb the aura of the 4 elements. Niet Tian murmured, but the corners of his mouth curled up into a strange smile. He said, if the heaven and earth snake fuses, wouldn't it be able to absorb the power of the 9 elements? Thinking of this, Niet Tian became excited. After a while, Niet Tian calmed down and began to practice the control of the heaven and earth crafty Tao. For the next 3 days, Niet Tian had been cultivating diligently. After 3 days, Niet Tian walked out of his room. His aura had become abnormally sharp, and it was even more terrifying than 3 days ago. For Niet Tian, 3 days was equivalent to a month. His strength had been completely stabilized. Niet Tian. Mo Rushi was waiting outside the room for a long time. Rushi. Niet Tian knew what Mo Rushi wanted to say. He took a step forward and pulled her into his arms. He said indifferently, don't worry. I promise you that I will come back alive. Yes. Mo Rushi nodded her head, but her eyes were filled with tears. In the end, she couldn't help but let them flow out. She knew that Niet Tian had to go to the demonic devouring abyss and that it would be dangerous. However, she couldn't help Niet Tian with anything. She could only pray in her heart that nothing would happen to Niet Tian. After bidding farewell to Mo Rushi, Niet Tian didn't stay any longer and prepared to head to the demonic devouring abyss immediately. However, at this moment, Emperor Han and the others appeared. Emperor Han. Niet Tian nodded slightly. He wanted to leave immediately, but he didn't expect the others to be waiting for him. Master Ao Jian, I will go to the demonic devouring abyss with you. Mao Xianglong nodded slightly, but his eyes were firm. He said, there are some things that only the 9 emperors can speak for. Perhaps the adjudicator will listen to my explanation. All right. Niet Tian looked at the others. It was obvious that this was the result of their discussion. He didn't decline anymore and nodded solemnly. Chapter 1331. Devouring Demon City. At the entrance of the devouring demon abyss, dozens of snow god imperial guards guarded the entrance. It was heavily guarded. At this moment, a man in gray stood at the entrance of the abyss with a cold smile on his face. If Niet Tian was here, he would recognize him immediately. He was one of 9 emperors, Emperor Dongfang Ilong. Beside Dongfang Ilong, a man in purple stood beside him. Obviously, his status was not lower than his. This man was also one of the 9 emperors, Great Emperor Zhui. Great Emperor Zhui was the owner of the purple demon eyes, one of the 10 connate extraordinary eyes. Among the 9 emperors, Great Emperor Zhui was ranked 3rd, second only to the Snow Empress and the Illusion Emperor. Now that the Illusion Emperor was dead, Great Emperor Zhui should be the 2nd strongest among the 9 emperors. Emperor Dongfang and Great Emperor Zhui were here. Obviously, they were invited by the Snow Empress to deal with Niet Tian. Great Emperor Zhui, do you think Niet Tian will come? Dongfang Ilong laughed, his eyes vicious. He and Niet Tian were enemies. Of course, he hoped that Niet Tian would come because the Snow Empress had laid a trap. As long as Niet Tian came, he would not be able to return. He is here. Great Emperor Zhui's mouth twitched as he looked into the distant void. Dongfang Ilong was slightly stunned. He did not see anything, but he did not doubt Great Emperor Zhui's words. The latter had the purple demon eyes and could see things that ordinary people could not. At this moment, 2 figures were tens of thousands of meters away from devouring Demon City. In the blink of an eye, they arrived above devouring Demon City. It was Niet Tian and Frost Empress. Frost Empress, she is here too? Dongfang Ilong couldn't help but frown when he saw the Frost Empress and Niet Tian together. Then, he laughed and said loudly, Niet Tian, Lord Frost Empress, Lord Snow Empress has been waiting for you for a long time. When Niet Tian saw Emperor Dongfang and Great Emperor Zhui, he could not help but laugh. He thought to himself, Looks like Snow Empress is ready. She's just waiting for me to walk in her trap. Of course, he knew that Emperor Dongwang and Great Emperor Zhui were here. Boom! Nie Tian didn't say anything. He took a step forward and his aura crushed down. The entire devouring Devil City shook as if it was going to collapse. What a powerful aura! Great Emperor Zhui and Emperor Dongwang looked at each other. Dongfang Ichiro, in particular, was petrified. Not long ago, he had met Nie Tian. At that time, the latter's strength was still very weak, and he could even kill him instantly. But now, Nie Tian's aura was surging and overwhelming. If it were an ordinary 9th-level Heavenly Emperor martial artist, they would not even be able to withstand this aura. Emperor Dongwang and Great Emperor Zhui thought to themselves that they definitely could not release such a tyrannical aura. The two of you, please make way. Nie Tian's figure descended and immediately retracted his aura. There was not a single trace of origin energy ripple around him. Wild like the sea, restrained like water, Nie Tian's control of origin energy had already reached the acme of perfection. Emperor Dongwang and Great Emperor Zhui looked at each other, then immediately stepped aside and said, "Please." Nie Tian did not stand on ceremony and directly stepped into the passageway in front of him, walking towards the devouring devil abyss. "Lord Demon Sovereign, I hope you're still alive." Nie Tian walked in the passageway and muttered in his heart. This time, his most important matter coming to the devouring devil abyss was to rescue Qi Wuxian. This matter was even more important than killing the Snow Emperor. Before long, the passageway in front of Nie Tian and Frost the Arch suddenly widened. The two did not hesitate and stepped out, entering the abyss. Their figures landed and directly appeared at the bottom of the abyss. "Snow Emperor, come out." Nie Tian did not see the Snow Emperor appear. He growled, and immediately the surrounding fog dispersed. The scene in front of him became much clearer. "Nie Tian, you really did not disappoint this emperor. You finally came." Immediately, the Snow Emperor's voice sounded, mixed with some sternness. His figure appeared in midair. Boom! Almost at the same time, there was suddenly a loud sound in the air, followed by the sound of metal chains moving. Nie Tian frowned and suddenly lifted his head. The scene that entered his eyes stunned him, and the blood in his body instantly boiled. In the sky, more than 10 metal chains coiled like giant snakes. In the center, there was a familiar figure, the Devil Emperor of the 9 underworlds, Qi Wuxian. At this moment, Qi Wuxian's body was a bloody mess. His breathing was extremely weak, and he was also unconscious. "Bastard!" Seeing this scene, Nie Tian roared angrily. Anger surged in his eyes, and he used his divine sense to investigate. He discovered that Qi Wuxian's Yuan meridians had been completely destroyed, and there was not a single trace of Yuan Qi in his body. It was obvious that the Snow Emperor did not kill Qi Wuxian, but made him suffer inhumane torture. "Nie Tian, are you satisfied with the gift that I prepared for you?" At this moment, the Snow Emperor's voice sounded again, cold and evil. "Shueling Tian." Nie Tian's eyes trembled as he uttered the Snow Empress name. He was like an enraged volcano that was about to erupt at any moment. "Nie Tian, don't be so agitated. The show has just begun." However, at this moment, the Snow Emperor had a mocking look on his face. He spoke coldly, then clapped his hands and said loudly, "Sky Dragon, your teacher is here. Aren't you going to come out and greet him?" Sky Dragon. Hearing this name, Nie Tian's face darkened, and he became even angrier. Sky Dragon was his 6th disciple, the one who had betrayed his teacher. What made Nie Tian even angrier was that Sky Dragon had personally killed the other 3 disciples of Nie Tian. As the Snow Emperor's voice fell, a figure appeared in the void. It was Nie Tian with a cold face, and he said in a deep voice, "Teacher, long time no see. Sky Dragon, it's really you." When Nie Tian saw the face of the figure clearly, his entire body shook like an enraged lion. The teacher and disciple had reunited under such circumstances. One could imagine the pain in Nie Tian's heart. Why? Tian stared at Sky Dragon with bloodshot eyes and roared furiously. He had treated Sky Dragon well. Why did Sky Dragon betray him? Why did he kill his fellow disciples? Every man for himself, and heaven and earth destroy him. Sky Dragon's face was cold as he spoke. There was no regret in his eyes as he coldly said, "You are my teacher and you have treated me well. However, this is not enough for me to sacrifice my life for you. Sometimes, people have to make some compromises in order to survive, even if the compromises are wrong." As the cold voice fell, it was like a steel needle piercing into Tian's heart. The heart-wrenching pain almost drove him crazy. He could accept Sky Dragon's betrayal, but why did he have to kill his fellow disciples? Was it to survive? Was it really so important to live like this? Sky Dragon, didn't you prepare a small gift for your teacher? Take it out. Suddenly, the Snow Emperor's voice was filled with mockery. He was enjoying the show of a teacher and disciple falling out with each other. Yes, Sky Dragon nodded and his lips twitched. Following this, he waved his hand, and 2 steel cages appeared in the air. There was a figure imprisoned in each cage. Tian suddenly lifted his head. We saw the 2 faces in the cages. He froze. Chapter 1332. Han Fei, Zhang Jianqing. Seeing the 2 figures in the iron cage, Tian screamed. The blood in his body instantly flowed backward, and he could only exhale and not inhale. His whole body was like a boiling volcano, and his whole body was ignited with terrible black flames of nothingness. Under the circumstances of extreme anger, Tian could not control the heart of nothingness in his body. Sky Dragon, it seems that your teacher is very satisfied with your little gift. At this moment, Snow Emperor smiled cold, and his eyes flashed fiercely. He said faintly, "Do it, kill the 2 of them." At this moment, Han Fei and Zhang Jianqing were unconscious, and their breaths were weak. They were more dangerous than Qi Wuxi Ocean. As Snow Emperor's voice fell, his figure moved at the same time, and he flew towards Qi Wuxi Ocean. Obviously, he was giving Tian a dilemma that he had no choice but to kill Qi Wuxi Ocean, Han Fei, and Zhang Jianqing at the same time. Tian could not split himself, and could only save one side. Who should he choose to save? Bastard! When Tian saw the Snow Empress and the Heavenly Dragon moving at the same time, he immediately understood what was going on. He roared, and the black flames around him surged out like a river bursting through a dam. They spread throughout the surrounding space, as if they were going to devour everything. Lord Ao Jian, I'm going to save the Demon King. At the same time, Mao Xianglong's voice sounded, and then his figure flickered, and he attacked Snow Emperor. Tian frowned slightly. He was not sure if Frost Emperor could stop Shui Ling Tian, but he had no other choice now that things had come to this. Thinking of this, Tian no longer hesitated. Meteor wings appeared on his back, and he flew towards Sky Dragon with a flap of his wings. Frost Emperor, you think too highly of yourself. On the other side, a cold voice suddenly sounded, and then a purple light flew out in the air, turned into a purple blade, and blasted towards Mao Xianglong. Mao Xianglong's beautiful eyes flickered. The purple blade was extremely fast, and she could not avoid it in an instant. At this critical moment, Mao Xianglong's body trembled, and a layer of ice crystal shield appeared around her. Boom! Crack! Immediately after, the purple blade attacked and directly bombarded the ice crystal shield. After a loud bang, the ice crystal shield shattered. Mao Xianglong's figure was like a kite with a broken string, smashing towards the bottom of the abyss. Frost Arch. Tian sensed that something was wrong. He turned around and saw that the person who attacked Frost Arch was Great Emperor Ziwei. Great Emperor Ziwei's strength was already above Frost Thearka's to begin with. Furthermore, Great Emperor Ziwei had launched a sneak attack and used the purple demon eyes. Frost Arch had actually been severely injured in one move. Tian, it seems like your Demon King's uncle isn't as important as your disciple. The Snow Empress' cold voice rang out from the void. She sounded like she was mocking Tian. After hearing the Snow Empress' words, Nie Tian felt like a knife was being twisted in his heart, and he couldn't help but pause. Nie Tian, don't worry. Leave the Demon Emperor to me. At this moment, a familiar voice sounded in Nie Tian's mind. It was extremely strange. The demonic road diagram. After hearing this voice, Nie Tian's eyes flickered and revealed a hint of passion. Nie Tian didn't expect that the demonic road diagram would appear here. Even with his senses, he couldn't detect the latter's existence. This made him very surprised. Although he didn't know how strong the demonic road diagram was, he could only choose to believe it. With this thought, Nie Tian steadied himself and rushed towards the sky dragon. You don't know your place. At this moment, a cold voice rang out. Immediately after, a figure appeared. It was Dongfang Ilang. Great Emperor Zhui and Dongfang Ilang appeared at the same time. One stopped Frostarch, and the other stopped Nie Tian. Get lost! Nie Tianling looked at Dongfang Ilang coldly. With a low roar, he struck with his sword. A mighty sword shadow appeared, and the black flames of nothingness pressed forward like a violent storm. Dongfang Ilang wanted to fight back, but he felt the space around him being suppressed. He couldn't even circulate his vital meridians. Before he could react, Dongfang Ilang let out a shrill scream. His whole body was struck down by the sword shadow and smashed towards the ground. As one of the 9 emperors, he didn't even have a chance to attack in front of Nie Tian. When the sky dragon saw this, he couldn't help but gasp. He instantly felt a chill down his spine. He didn't expect Nie Tian's strength to reach such a level. Dong Wang couldn't even block a single attack from him. At this moment, the sky dragon frowned slightly, and there was a slight pause. Absolute confinement. Nie Tian seized the opportunity. His eyes trembled slightly, and he activated the holographic confinement and absolute tremor at the same time. A huge spiritual deterrence instantly enveloped the sky dragon. The sky dragon's eyes narrowed slightly. Then his divine sense trembled, and he instantly fell into a daze. Nie Tian's figure turned into a black lightning. In an instant, he rushed over madly. A huge aura spread out, and the sky dragon's figure was immediately forced to retreat. Nie Tian stepped in the air and came in front of the 2 metal cages. He felt that Han Fei and Zhang Jianqing's aura were still there, and he heaved a sigh of relief. He stretched out his hand, and a ball of black flames surged out of his palm, which directly melted the metal cages. Then, the 3 live stone appeared. Nie Tian sent Han Fei and Zhang Jianqing into the 3 live stone and said loudly, Corpse Luo, I'll leave the 2 of them to you. Don't worry, Master. The voice of the Corpse Luo demon Lord came from the 3 live stone and then disappeared. On the other side, the Snow Emperor was just about to kill Qi Wuxiao, but he felt a ball of scorching aura coming from behind. He couldn't help but frown, and his eyes were slightly dazed. Xueling Tian, leave the Demon Emperor to me. You don't have to worry about him. Then, an extremely mocking voice was heard, and a ball of red flames turned into thousands of fire snakes, which surged towards the Snow Emperor. Such a strong aura. The Snow Emperor frowned slightly. He didn't expect such a terrifying person to be hiding beside him. Even Nie Tian couldn't sense the demonic Lu Tu. So how could the Snow Emperor? The demonic Lu Tu had been hiding in the demonic devouring abyss for 3 days, and he hadn't moved at all. His entire aura had fused with the demonic devouring abyss. This was his patience. He's just a piece of trash. So what if I give him to you? The Snow Emperor laughed cold, and his figure retreated rapidly. If he tried to kill Qi Wuxiao, he would definitely be able to, but he would have to take a direct hit from the demonic Lu Tu, and it was very likely that he would be injured. After weighing the pros and cons, the Snow Emperor felt that a useless demon emperor wasn't worth the risk. Moreover, he had already arranged everything. Nie Tian would definitely die in the demonic devouring abyss, and when that happened, Qi Wuxiao would also die. Thank you. The demonic Lu Tu let out a weird laugh, and his figure turned into a red flame. He flew across the sky and directly cut off the metal chains that imprisoned Qi Wuxiao, and took him away. There's a price to pay to save someone. At that moment, the Snow Emperor laughed coldly, and he struck out with his palm. A giant hand of ice appeared in the sky, and it pressed towards the demonic Lu Tuesday. That's not for sure. The demonic Lu Tu let out another weird laugh, and his body turned into a ball of fire, and he passed through the giant hand of ice. When the Snow Emperor saw this, his eyes trembled, and his face darkened. Chapter 1333 Inferno Devil Lu Mo. When the Snow Empress saw the face of the person in front of her, she could not help but frown. She had never thought that Lu Mo would still be alive. Schwelling Tian, are you surprised to see that I am still alive? Lu Mo chuckled. Back when I fought with Nia Tian and was injured, you ambushed me, right? Like Chi Wuxia Ocean, Lu Mo had also fought with Nia Tian. Just like Chi Wuxia Ocean, he had also been ambushed by the Snow Empress. He had been hit by the Snow Empress' palm and thought he would die for sure. However, he met Ren Wang Yi and was saved. So what if it was me? The Snow Empress smiled coldly. Her expression became gloomy again. Oh, Lu Mo let out a strange cry. Full of mockery, he said disdainfully, the 9 emperors are actually an expert at ambushing. You have really opened my eyes. With that, Lu Mo's figure flickered. He came to Nye Tian's side and handed Chi Wuxia Ocean to Nye Tian. Nye Tian sensed that Chi Wuxia Ocean's aura was still there. His expression relaxed a little. He also put Chi Wuxia Ocean into the Stone of 3 Lives. Thanks a lot, Demon Path, Nye Tian said sincerely, taking a glance at the Demon Path. You're welcome. Lu Mo nodded and smiled. At this time, the Frost Empress also appeared and came to Nye Tian's side. Frost Empress, are you okay? Nye Tian looked at the Frost Empress with a serious expression. I'm fine. Mao Xianglong smiled and wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. She was one of the 9 emperors. Great Emperor Ziwei did not dare to kill her. Sky Dragon attack. At this time, the Snow Empress' voice sounded again, cold and murderous. Sky Dragon recovered from his daze. His eyes trembled violently. He could not hide the fear in his heart. He was only close to his peak strength. How could he be a match for Nye Tian? He had just seen that even Dong Wang, who had the will of the 9 emperors, could not withstand one move from Nye Tian. Oh, the Snow Emperor's face darkened when she saw that Sky Dragon was stunned. She said, Sky Dragon, dogs have to listen to their masters. Are you going to defy me? Sky Dragon doesn't dare. Sky Dragon's face turned as white as a sheet and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. When Nye Tian saw this scene, his face was extremely gloomy. Seeing his own disciple being treated like a dog, he felt even more pain in his heart. However, all of this was caused by Sky Dragon himself. The evils brought upon themselves were the hardest to bear. Since you don't dare, then make your move. The Snow Empress' expression was extremely gloomy as she spoke in a cold voice. Sky Dragon stood in a daze on the elemental energy. His hand was holding onto the long sword, but his arm was trembling uncontrollably. There's no need. Nye Tian couldn't stand it anymore. He moved and said in a deep voice, Sky Dragon, you are my disciple after all. If I can't let you live like a human, then I can only let you die like a human. As soon as he finished speaking, Nye Tian moved and appeared in front of Sky Dragon in a flash. The sword Absolute Heaven landed with a loud bang. The surging sword essence whistled in the air and was filled with the intention to kill. Teacher, Sky Dragon's eyes trembled and the fear in his heart spread to his face. His knees couldn't support him anymore and he knelt down abruptly. At this moment, he finally felt regret. However, it was too late. Nye Tian's expression was cold and stern, but his heart was trembling. He said with hatred, Sky Dragon, I don't blame you for betraying me. However, you shouldn't have killed your fellow disciple. I can't forgive you for this. As he spoke in a deep voice, the shadow of the sword slashed down. Sky Dragon's face froze for an instant. Suddenly, he opened his mouth as though he wanted to say something, but he didn't have the chance to. Boom! As the shadow of the sword whizzed past, Sky Dragon's body shook. He couldn't withstand the pressure of the sword essence and broke into pieces, turning into a ball of bloodlight. At this moment, Nietion's eyes flickered intensely. There was a crystalline object surging in his eyes, but it disappeared in an instant. He had killed his own disciple with his own hands. This was an extremely painful feeling, and he would remember it for the rest of his life. For a moment, Nietion was somewhat absent-minded. When the Snow Empress saw this scene from afar, she wasn't surprised at all. Instead, the corner of her mouth twitched slightly as she revealed an evil smile. Nietion, be careful. At this moment, the luminous demon too suddenly sensed something and exclaimed. When Nietion heard the exclamation, he focused his gaze. He saw countless black runes surging out from the bloodlight in front of him and pressing down on him. Oh no! When he sensed the aura within the black runes, Nietion's expression suddenly changed, and he knew that something was amiss. Black flames surged out of his body, but the black runes were like maggots in his bones. They directly entered his body and locked onto his yuan meridians. Soul-locking terror curse. When Nietion felt that his yuan meridians were locked by the black runes, his face darkened and he exclaimed. The black runes were none other than one of the 3 great evil curses in the heaven domain. The soul-locking terror curse. In his previous life, Nietion had died from the soul-locking terror curse. The scariest thing about the soul-locking terror curse was that it could seal a martial artist's yuan meridians and soul, causing the martial artist to be unable to use any yuan qi or mental strength. Nietion, you finally fell for it. At this moment, the Snow Empress' voice rang out. She was extremely cold as she said, I have nurtured the soul-locking terror curse in Sky Dragon's body, and it is already very strong. As long as you kill him, the soul-locking terror curse will enter your body. Everything is going very smoothly, isn't it? Ha ha! At the end of her sentence, the Snow Empress actually laughed maniacally. At this moment, Nietion suddenly understood something. He bellowed angrily, despicable. The Snow Empress knew that Sky Dragon was not Nietion's match, but she still wanted the latter to attack. So it was to release the soul-locking terror curse in Sky Dragon's body. The Snow Empress knew that the moment Nietion killed Sky Dragon, he would definitely feel heartache. Heartache would cause him to lower his guard. Without any guard, he would definitely be affected by the soul-locking terror curse. Sky Dragon, this was the Snow Empress killer move. Damn it! Lamengtu and the Frost Empress instantly understood. Their expressions changed, and they shouted angrily. Who would have thought that the Snow Empress, as one of the 9 emperors, would actually use such a despicable method? Nietion, accept your death obediently. The Snow Empress laughed coldly, and killing intent rose from her body, revealing her killing intent. Nietion stood in the void. His face turned black. He wanted to force out the soul-locking terror curse. Boom! Just at this moment, black flames of nothingness suddenly surged out from the 10th origin meridian in his body. They were like raging waves that surged endlessly within his body and roared fiercely. At this moment, Nietion felt as if his entire body was about to be torn apart. Every inch of his bones and skin was in so much pain that he could not help but howl in pain. Die. When the Snow Empress saw this, she thought that Nietion was tortured by the soul-locking terror curse. Without hesitation, she roared and moved. The right hand of God appeared, and she threw a punch. Watch out! Lamengtu shouted. His body turned into a ball of flames that instantly spread into a sea of fire. It pressed towards the Snow Empress. At the same time, the black flames in Nietion's body surged and swallowed the soul-locking terror curse. The black flames on Nietion's face dissipated. He was stunned. One of the 3 evil curses in the heaven domain, the soul-locking terror curse, was swallowed by the black flames. Only now did Nietion truly understand how formidable the heart of nothingness was. His body shuddered, emitting violent black flames of nothingness. His eyes were burning with fury. Chapter 1334. Terrifying black flames of nothingness burst out of Nietion's body and wreaked havoc in the air, giving rise to an extremely terrifying aura. At this moment, he finally understood how terrifying the heart of nothingness was. It was no wonder that even the Origin Star stones couldn't completely resist its devouring power. The soul-sealing terror curse was one of the 3 great curses in the divine realm, and yet Tion naturally understood how terrifying it was. However, the soul-sealing terror curse was instantly devoured by the heart of nothingness. This showed how perverse the heart of nothingness was. After the soul-sealing terror curse was devoured, yet Tion's aura rose. The black flames around him surged like waves as they surged towards the Snow Empress. Rumble! A terrifying sound rang out in the air. The devouring aura of the black flames was like a dark cloud, and a deafening rumble could be heard. The Snow Empress furrowed her brow when she saw this. Her eyes trembled, and an unconcealable look of shock appeared on her face. She couldn't imagine how Niet Tion could break free from the soul-sealing terror curse so quickly. At this moment, the Snow Empress could sense how powerful Niet Tion's aura was. She was horrified, and her body paused for a moment. However, she was someone who had experienced countless battles. She knew that if she retreated now, she would definitely die. Right now, she had to grit her teeth and move forward to fight Niet Tion head-on. Boom! The strength in the Snow Empress' right hand surged as she thought of this. Thousands of golden fist shadows appeared in the air and came crashing over like raging waves. Niet Tion didn't even frown when he saw this. Instead, the killing intent in his eyes became even sharper. The 10th origin meridian in his body revolved crazily. Waves of immense star power fused perfectly with the black flames, and a terrifying, devouring aura was released as if it wanted to devour heaven and earth. Bam, bam, bam. In the next moment, countless golden fist shadows descended and bombarded the sea of black flames. However, they were like clay oxen entering the sea and were directly devoured by the waves of black flames. The Snow Empress' expression changed when she saw this, and her eyes trembled violently. He had never expected Niet Tion's devouring power to be so powerful. It was as if he could completely disregard his right hand of God's attack. One had to know, the right hand of God was formed from the fusion of saint bones. Each palm attack was sufficient to make peak Heavenly Emperor powerhouses suffer heavy injuries. However, Niet Tion completely ignored this kind of attack. It was too terrifying. Schwelling Tion, prepare to die. Niet Tion laughed. His ice-cold and determined voice sounded like a death knell as it rang out beside the Snow Empress. This was a good opportunity for him to severely injure or even kill the Snow Empress before she completely unleashed her ice-sealing fiendish seal. Boom! Bang! At this moment, waves of black flames surged over, and the Snow Empress' body was flung back amidst a muffled boom. She drew a blinding, blood-colored trail in the air. Lumling too and the others sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw this. Their faces were filled with shock. The Snow Empress of the 9 Emperors, known as a demigod, had actually been sent flying after a head-on clash with Niet Tion. This was too unbelievable. Niet Tion's current strength was too terrifying. It was almost close to the godly state's fighting strength. Luming too was especially shocked. He had seen Niet Tion 3 days ago, and the latter definitely did not have this kind of fighting strength then. In just 3 days, Niet Tion seemed to have completely fused with the heart of nothingness. He could perfectly control the heart of nothingness's power. Niet Tion is indeed someone with the god-fiend origin embryo. He's simply a freak. Luming too thought to himself. His eyes were filled with great shock. Lord Snow Empress. Great Emperor Ji Wei exclaimed when he saw the Snow Empress being sent flying by Niet Tion. The Snow Empress was in midair. Her entire body suddenly surged with endless frost, and her figure stabilized in the void. At this moment, she was in an extremely sorry state. Her entire body was dripping with blood, and her face was a mess of flesh and blood. She could barely make out her human form. She had never expected Niet Tion's strength to be so terrifying. 3 days ago, she had still thought that she could fight Nietian. But now, she had been defeated by him in a single move. The 9 Emperors? Nietian looked at the sorry state the Snow Empress was in. His lips curled into a cold smile. He mocked. You can't even withstand a single blow. Nietian, you. The Snow Empress' eyes flashed. She could not hide the fear in her eyes. Her body trembled slightly. Her mouth was wide open, but she could not say anything. It was obvious that the previous blow had injured her severely. She had almost lost the ability to fight again. Nietian's lips curled into a cold smile. He was actually quite shocked. He did not expect the heart of nothingness to be so powerful after fusing with the power of the stars. Before the Snow Empress could finish speaking, Nietian said coldly, Snow Empress, do you think that using the ice-sealing devilish mark to threaten me will work? His eyes were very cold. Right now, Nietian was no longer afraid of the Snow Empress' ice-sealing devilish mark. He was very confident that he could protect himself, Lu Moltu, and the Frost Empress. Furthermore, this was the demonic devouring abyss. It was originally the bottom of an abyss where time and space had collapsed. It was not a big deal to be destroyed again. The Snow Empress furrowed her brow. Her face turned pale, and beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. Nietian, do you know who I am? The Snow Empress suddenly frowned and spoke in a cold voice. Are you finally going to use the so-called adjudicator? Nietianling laughed coldly. The disdain in his eyes deepened. The 9 Emperors were actually using someone else to threaten him in order to preserve his life. What joke? The Snow Empress was stunned and asked, You know about the adjudicator? Then he looked at the Frost Empress and immediately understood. He said coldly, Mao Xianglong, do you know that revealing the existence of the adjudicator is a taboo for the 9 Emperors? Only the 9 Emperors knew about the adjudicator. No one else could know about it. The Snow Empress did not expect the Frost Empress to tell Nietian about the adjudicator. The 9 Emperors' taboo. The Frost Empress said coldly, When you killed the Illusion Emperor, did you think about the 9 Emperors' taboo? The Snow Empress had even killed the Illusion Emperor. How could she still have the face to mention the 9 Emperors' taboo to the Frost Empress? Mao Xianglong, the Snow Empress frowned. Her face was extremely gloomy. She growled, Prepare to face the wrath of the adjudicator. Umph. At this moment, Tianling laughed. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He said, Shui Ling Tian, do you think you can survive until the adjudicator arrives? Nietian could tell that the Snow Empress was obviously stalling for time and waiting for the adjudicator to arrive. However, he would not give the Snow Empress the time to do so. As soon as he finished speaking, the meteor wings appeared on Nietian's back. He moved and leaped into the sky. Then, he folded his wings, and a ray of black flame whizzed out like a sharp blade towards the Snow Empress. Nietian, you can't kill me. The Snow Empress screamed when she saw what was happening. Her entire body surged with frost and formed an ice shield. She had finally used the power of the ice-sealing demonic seal.